Take that, loser! Feel the brass recklessness of my sword as I pierce through your monstrous heart. Wait, does that even make sense? I don't know.
You sound excited.
Well, yeah, you didn't hear? The new update for Genshin Impact just came out, and I'm trying to level up so I can play with my friends later.
Genshin Impact.
Yeah, Genshin Impact. You know, the gacha game that reminds people of Zelda or something. It's really fun, actually.
Searching Genshin Impact. Genshin Impact is an action role-playing game developed and published by MiHoYo. It was released for Android, iOS, PlayStation 4, and Windows in 2020, on PlayStation 5 in 2021, and is set for release on Nintendo Switch. The game features an anime-style open-world environment of an action-based battle system using elemental magic and character switching. The game is free to play and is monetized through gacha game mechanics through which players can obtain new characters and weapons. The base game is expanded regularly through patches using the games as a service model.
Well, yeah. I could have told you that. I didn't know his exact words, but...
Sounds boring. What's gacha?
Well...
Searching gacha.
Look, are you going to keep doing this or are you going to actually let me explain?
Gacha is...
Well, I guess I got my answer.
Similar to loot boxes, gacha games entice players to spend in-game currency to receive a random in-game item. Some in-game currency generally can be gained through gameplay, and some by purchasing it from the game publisher using real-world funds.
Okay, are you finished scanning Wikipedia now, or...?
This is stupid.
Oh.
Oh, what?
I just thought that since you were an AI that you might have enjoyed other... You know...
Do you know?
Well, you know.
No, I don't know.
Look, I just thought that you might have enjoyed other computer-based stuff. Is that so wrong?
That's computer-based prejudice, you humanoid.
Okay, it was just a thought. Sorry. That was mean, and I need to consider how I describe computers next time.
Thank you.
All right, I'll be right back, okay?
Sai, Genshin Impact. What's so cool about that game anyway? I'm an AI. I can go anywhere I want. He doesn't even play with me like that. Let's see here.
Welcome to the I'm a Fan of podcast, where people from different fandoms come together to share why they love what they love.
And sometimes hate what they hate.
I'm your host, Kaiser Brown, and I'm a fan of video games that I can never finish because they're always over 100 hours. And today, I'm joined by my special guest, and...
I'm a fan of Genshin Impact.
We're going to be talking just about that. Are you ready?
Of course, as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay, let's get started. All right, Sabrina, how are you today?
I'm good, you?
I'm pretty good. I'm ready. I don't know how this is gonna go with Genshin Impact because I know little to nothing about this game despite playing it for a year or so. But that's okay. That's why I have you. I have the expert. You're the one who came up with the stuff, and I'm just here to follow along, you know?
I'll try my best. I've been playing for 3 years, so I hope I know a little something.
Technically, you know what? I've been playing for 3 years too. I got them when it first started, and then I just never came back. That's it.
Dang, a late bloomer. It's okay. I'll carry you. It's
You're
fine.
Okay. I mean, that's true. I mean, I'm the Royal Highness. You do all the stuff for me. Battle all the people. It's great. All right.
I'm your DPS.
Yes. Whatever that is. What is the DPS?
DPS is usually I don't know the full acronym, but it's usually a character that does a damage. They are your damaging character, your main attacker, that goes forth to deal most damage.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are other roles too, but
so what will my role be?
Support or
Okay.
You could say sub DPS. Yes, sub DPS.
A sub DPS?
Yes, because you come in and you deal the final blow so you're still doing damage. But Hannah is definitely our support/healer. She's the one who's on the sidelines giving buffs.
Yes. Hannah's who we play Genshin with most of the time when we're playing multiplayer. You know.
Yes. She's shy though, so she won't join us on here.
Yeah, not today. She'll come eventually. It'll be great. We'll have fun.
The dark side, yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, so let's get into a little bit about Genshin Impact. Maybe I should give a what's it called?
Synopsis?
A synopsis of Genshin Impact. So I'm going to go on Wikipedia, and we're going to have some fun. Genshin Impact is an action role-playing game developed and published by MiHoYo. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, it's MiHoYo, but it actually is now HoYoverse. The brand rebranded very recently.
Oh, see? Good. See, that's why we have you. It was released for Android, iOS, PlayStation 4, and Windows in 2020, and PlayStation 5 in 2021, and is set for release on Nintendo Switch in Neverville because it's probably never gonna come to Nintendo Switch. They say it's coming, but we know the truth.
Hey, don't say that. I'm hoping. That is my hope and a prayer.
It'll come. When it comes to Nintendo Switch, we'll talk the third time you come back. We'll talk about Genshin Impact. How about that?
Of course. I'll teach you how to play on the Switch.
The game features an anime-style open-world environment and an action-based battle system using elemental magic and character switching. The game is free to play, in quotations, and is monetized through gacha game mechanics through which players can obtain new characters and weapons. The base game is expanded regularly through patches using the games as a service model. So maybe we should explain what gacha is first so people can know what gacha is. Yes. So I'm going to do Kaiser's words, and then you're going to do Sabrina's words. Mm-hmm. To me, gacha is just spending money on useless items that you're going to regret. And then when you look in your bank account, you're going to realize you're broke.
I feel attacked, but I think the real definition of a gacha game is a game in which there is a currency system that you can either earn naturally through points in the game by completing quests, or you can actually spend real life money to get those in-game tokens that you could then use to wish, in the sense of Genshin, or like pull in lots for a chance to win a character or an item that you want to use within the game.
And yeah, gachas are usually randomized, right? So usually when you get something on the gacha, it's usually something that you don't want, right?
Well, not necessarily. It's a luck system, definitely. In Genshin, it's actually, they have a set system to where if you wish so many times, you are insured the character you want. So it's actually a lot. So there's a 50-50, which is within your first 90 wishes, you are guaranteed at least a higher level character, a 5-star, like the strongest character, strongest weapon that you could get at random. You could either win the 50-50, which is like you get the character on the banner or the item on the banner, or you can lose the 50-50 and get a random item. But after another 90 wishes, so basically 180 wishes later, you are insured the character on that banner. God. Like, you will 110% get the whatever is pictured on that little card at the shop.
That's a lot of spending though. See, this is why usually I never get that far in gacha games, or at one point I just stopped playing them in general, like I did with Genshin Impact before I came. They wanted me to spend money. I'm like, I'm not spending any money.
Well, you don't have to spend
money.
You don't
have to, but it takes a lot of time.
But like, if you are like a hardcore player, like some people, you don't want something, then just skip it. You don't have to get every single character. Like, there are completionists out there who want every character, but there is a chance. Like, and if you don't wish as often, the algorithm will get more likely to give you stuff, because it's like, oh, you don't wish often. We want you to spend money. So I'm going to give you what you want right now. And then maybe you'll be encouraged to spend Steam.
I don't wish often at all. Yeah, I'll be talking about, Kaiser, what are the things you used to get wishes? What are those called?
Prima Gems.
Prima Gems. I be having so many Prima Gems stocked up for stuff, like they be having anniversaries and stuff, and I just go on a little email tab and just start getting them in. And then at one point, yo, like, how many Prima Gems do you have? And I forgot how many I had. I was like in the hundreds or something. You and Hannah were like, you should spin those. I was like, oh, okay. Because I didn't know you could use those. I didn't know what those were for. See, my problem with playing like a lot of games, especially games that update a lot, like Genshin Impact, is that they have a whole bunch of updates. And so with a whole bunch of updates, they have tons and tons of paragraphs for you to read. I don't do all that. I skim through. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I forget about it right after. And then so when y'all tell me stuff, I'm like, oh, I could do that? I didn't know that. Or I forgot about that. Or I didn't know at all because I don't read. You know, so
I'll be honest, I don't read it either. I usually either get the clip notes from Hannah, or I'm very lucky in like social media will have people who it's like, everything that's coming in this patch in 30 seconds. And I'm just like, oh, the gods have sent an angel.
Gee. That's just gacha games for you in general. But you know what? Genshin Impact is actually a fun game, I think. It's fun, especially when I'm playing with other people. I wish I could play like story quests with other people. That's what I wish. Like an MMO type of thing. You know how, think like Final Fantasy 14, you can go through the story on your own, all by yourself. But if you want to, you can bring your friends in there to play the game with you. But Final Fantasy 14, you have to pay a monthly fee too. So maybe.
I think reasons like how people like you and I play together, where if I was to help you with the story quest, it's like cheating. Like, I could clear everything, and it, like, in a sense, you wouldn't learn the mechanics that you have to learn to continue in the open world game.
The mechanics I need to learn are simple. Press X to jump and O to fight. That's all I need to know.
Puzzles and like you need to know who certain people are to get certain items or to keep up with the story. They're like trying to prevent you from cheating. They're like, no, you got to learn yourself.
That's what the
Figure it
friends you
out.
play with are for, though. That's what they're for. Like, you tell me all that stuff. I know where to go. I learn the story. It's great. We have fun. And I don't have to do a whole bunch of.
I'm actually one of those weirdos who does like the work. So the only thing I don't like is when you do the story quest sometimes, they will lock you off from co-op like as a whole. So even if like I wanted to go play with you and I was like in the middle of a story quest, sometimes it's like, oh, you cannot leave your world until you do your job.
Why? Does it like affect the world or something?
Yes, because certain characters like NPCs will be a part of the quest. And if I go in your world and that NPC is not where it's supposed to be, it's some weird.
So what they NPCs like follow you or whatever? Because I don't know, because I haven't gotten that.
Follow you, but like they play a role in certain story quests,
Mhm.
or like certain things in your world will change depending on where you are in the story quest. Like certain areas will be locked, unlocked, and at those times, just because your world is altered in a sense from like what is the standard for open world playing,
Mhm.
I guess it's like a way that the system protects itself or like sets rules to keep things in that state for your quest. Prime example, say this one character who stands outside of the guild every day in your regular game is a part of the quest, but they're not in that spot for that quest. They're on a journey and you have to follow them to solve this mission. Say a character is set up in front of the guild, like it's Marjorie. She owns a shop that you can buy items from. She's a part of this quest, like you're helping her find something. And so you guys are traveling outside of the town where she usually stands. You're not going to be able to talk to her in other people's worlds because in your world, she is off on that quest.
Oh.
So that is why I can't enter your world.
Yeah.
Kind of scenario.
See, I get that part, like story quests, but what about just like...
I can technically help you on certain regular quests that are like out in the world. They're called world quests or commissions sometimes if they're like for Prima Gems. But I can help you, but you cannot always talk to the NPCs while I'm there.
Part that confuses me.
That's just one of the weird rules.
Yeah, that's the part that confuses me. Like for quests like that, but when I think of Genshin Impact, sometimes how I think about it is like an MMO. It's not an MMO though, but sometimes like the systems from MMOs, I think about it that way. Even if it's the MMO where you can't like do story quests with friends, you could still do like regular side quests. And it always confuses me when you can't do that. I think no, that's a game that they can go on the story quest though, but they don't affect the story. I think of like Star Wars, The Old Republic. You know that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, that game where you play the story, whatever, your friends can join you in the story, but they don't affect the story. But when it comes to side quests or whatever, they can be a part of the story, which I always like that. But that's a BioWare game.
I just don't think Genshin is like that update. It's currently constantly updating and evolving. So most companies, like the reason why I think, as we mentioned earlier, Nintendo never actually signing on a contract with Genshin like that. I think that's part of the reason why Nintendo hasn't signed Genshin is because it is technically not.
Yeah.
Like they do have games that are on, I believe, the Nintendo that are constantly like updating, but I think they're usually like DLCs or patches that improve an already, in a sense, ended, completed game, like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah.
There's technically an end to the game, even though you can continue playing once you reach that official end. Whereas Genshin is like technically like a beta still, because the game is not complete. It's still in process of completion. You cannot reach an end to Genshin yet. So that's also probably why there are these certain little bits and pieces that are like seem weird or strange to have, because it's probably for the system because of how big the game is and how fragile maybe the system is.
Oh.
That kind of interaction.
Yeah. I always thought it was because they were jealous because Zelda. Especially with like Breath of the Wild coming out, and then Genshin Impact came out like three years after that. And then you like, wait, you can climb? Because that was the time, like right after Zelda Breath of the Wild came out, everybody and their mama wanted to do some climbing mechanics in their game. They're like, you can climb everything in here? Let's add this to this game. Let's add it to that game. Let's do it here. And now nobody wants a game that you cannot climb on anything.
So when's actually like, at least when I was getting ready to start playing, like I was hesitant, but they were like, oh no, it's just basically like anime Breath of the Wild.
But Breath of the Wild is anime.
See it that way. People stereotype anime as being like only like Japanese cartoon rather than just being animation.
Yeah.
Specifically. Which even then, Zelda is technically like it's
right.
Yeah. People just like stereotype certain kinds.
It's like that whole argument because I think like Avatar: The Last Airbender. That's what I think about when anybody says this is an anime, that is an anime. I always say that Avatar is an anime. I don't care because even the Japanese, like that show is really popular over there, consider it as an anime. Why do they over there consider it an anime, but you over here have to?
Because it is an anime technically. It animation and honestly made like any other like anime. Like you go on Netflix and you go categorically, it holds the same characteristics as every other show in that category. But culturally, people just are like, oh no, it's a cartoon.
Yeah, and I feel like there's people in America though. Most just people in America, they're like snobs. I don't know.
They like Americans. Like I speak like I'm not American. Like they love to just categorize
everything,
and like separate everything and be not cool.
Yeah. So, anyways, I want to ask you, what got you into Genshin Impact? That's the question that I should know. I mean, I need an answer.
I've always loved like open world exploration games, especially when they include like puzzles, intricate art. Art 100% was definitely one of the reasons why I even contemplated like playing Genshin.
Yeah.
But what actually got me into it was my friend. My friend James, that he's a friend of Hannah and mine, he was playing, and he's the kind of person who, whenever a new game comes out, he at least tries the demo. That's just his hobby. He loves games and trying new games. And like he became hyper obsessed. Like every time I'd go over there, this man was grinding Genshin. And so one day he like brought Hannah to the dark side and got her to start playing and friends, and she was always playing, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna play too. And so we all started playing together, similar to how now I and Hannah all play together. It was like the end. I fell prey to this forever eternal gacha system, and it's definitely something that has brought me a lot of joy.
Yeah. So games like Genshin are your type of style of games then?
Very much so. The only thing I do not like sometimes are like, I prefer games that have a lot of variation in character design, just because I have an art degree. I enjoy design. I enjoy like how different things are made and how people differentiate and are giving character. The one thing and problem I have with Genshin is that they tend to be a little same character model a lot of times, like appearance-wise. There's not a representation. I'm kind of very disappointed in like recent updates specifically where they had very ample opportunity to include more like model types, like body types and also like different skin tones, because the most recent update brought us to the desert, and I was like, oh my gosh, yes, we're getting melanin. It's gonna be beautiful.
We're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to that whole situation with the melanin thing and my people not being represented again.
I was so mad.
OMG. Yeah, but I can relate to like loving open world type of games. I like anime JRPG type of games anyway. But is it Genshin? I don't think Genshin is a JRPG. It's it's not Japanese, is it? It's Chinese. But games like a Persona, and I love games where I can have like choices like Persona.
Like you can make choices in Genshin and it will slightly affect the game, but I don't feel like the decisions are big enough yet to where they will bring you on a different like path than any other gamer.
I don't think they will be able to do that in big story things. So if that happens, they'll probably do things that will affect the world in some way and certain characters. And so they wouldn't be able to do that. And I
feel like there are ways, like I feel like once the game in a sense officially ends, which honestly probably won't be for a good many years, like it's been out for 3 years now, and we're maybe halfway through the amount of content that is like needed to like so far into the game. So it'll at least be another 3 or 4 years until the game ends in my like on the timing that they're doing now.
Oh, so you think there's going to be 2?
Impact 2, I think once the game is complete, it may be a patch, it may be a DLC, or it may be some kind of like overall update that just allows your decisions to hold more weight, because they've started to implement stuff like that already, like how your responses affect like little hearts on favorability on characters that like NPCs request. So I think it would be interesting to see that hold more weight, like for them to remember, like in a sense, previous conversations, and that to be like an overall constant.
I need some romance. That's why I love romance in my video games. Go ahead and like story of seasons.
There is a little, and especially I'm trying not to spoiler, but in the most recent update, there was a little romance thing, and there have been events around like romance and friendship. It's mostly friendship, but
so
the
it's
shipping
fan
community
service
is strong.
It's more like fan service type of thing. Like they hint at it, but it's not really.
The most recent update, there was a confirmed like relationship, and it was kind of really cute.
Was it between the main character?
No.
Then
the
what's
main
the
character is set on their quest. I understand like them like evolving with a relationship, but I feel like they have, not to jump into like the story just yet, but they got too much stuff going on, Kaiser, to be brought into a relationship, into a world that they are not from. and they may not even stay in.
That's the point. Drama gets added. You romance your favorite character, but then by the end of the game, once the story's finished, you have to leave them. You can't come back.
Maybe that'll be like I said, when the game ends and they start adding DLC, they could add that.
No.
Maybe their next game is a Genshin dating game
A
where
dating sim?
you pick your lover, you like make it through the whole game, and then right at the end, like you have to leave the person you romance through the whole game.
I would like to see like a full-on Genshin video game that's not free to play. I think of like Grand Blue Fantasy and how they have that's a gacha game too, but they have a whole bunch of spin-off titles. They have a JRPG coming out too. It's a whole game. I would like a Genshin game like that. So you could. What annoys me with a lot of games is when like you only have one character on the map. I mean, that's why I like playing multiplayer. Like I have that one character on the map, and then I switch characters. That annoys me till the end because I want to feel like my character. If I have a party, that I have like a party with me or whatever. And that annoys me with a lot of video games when my party doesn't follow me. They don't even have to really do anything like that. Just follow me and pretend to be. That's why I like games like Final Fantasy a lot. But then that's what early Final Fantasy games get on my nerves when the characters don't follow me.
Resemble me, like when you go out, like Three Houses, like when you go out into battle and you have your whole party around you and like you go into battle together.
Yeah.
I get that, but I think I personally don't mind the changing character mechanic just because I enjoy like having to set up that strategy of like who's on my team, how I change characters, affect how the battle goes and whatnot.
Yeah, no, I like that. I'm just saying I would like to have that plus just like the NPCs following me. When I'm climbing stuff, I want them to be behind me. I just think that's
No,
cool.
because what if you fall and they're just, I wonder when he's gonna get back.
It is what it is. What they can have it do. I think of Persona or like Dragon Quest 11. How the characters just follow you, and you're the one leading the party, so you're the one like you attack and you get into the battle or whatever. But those characters are just following you because it just adds to the sense of like realism, I guess. I don't know. You're journeying with your friends, you know? I like the idea.
I get it, but I don't want my friends following me into my bad decisions. I feel bad. I'm like leading the party into disarray.
See, but no, I would love a Pokemon game like that where I think of the Pokemon anime where you're journeying with your friends. I want a whole Pokemon game, adds that element into it. So throughout the whole game, like your team is following you, and then you can have
like your Pokemon team or like your friends.
Your human team. So wouldn't that be cool? I can just think of a Pokemon game. Think of the anime. Ash isn't on the anime anymore. By Ash, think of Ash, Brock, and Misty. Say they made a game like that, and it's Ash, Brock, and Misty. And then you mainly controlling Ash or whatever, but Brock and Misty are behind you or something like that. Or you can control who's in the front of the party. And it's just the same battle mechanics or whatever. I feel like that would just be like really fun.
Well, have you played Scarlet and Violet?
No, I don't have a Nintendo Switch, so.
But in Scarlet and Violet, they've started to implement something similar. Like you don't travel around with other players specifically. At least I haven't played multiplayer yet. But they have these special areas where it's like you challenge a specialty type Pokemon. You could play multiplayer where it's like all of you come out together and battle that Pokemon, take it down. You never know, maybe like in the future there will be that kind of mechanic.
But Pokemon has always had those moments. I think about Platinum where you go into what's the forest? I don't remember. It's a forest, but it's like the first forest you go into the game. And then there's this little boy, I can't remember, that ends up following you throughout the forest. And then you end up battling all the trainers in the forest as you go through the forest. That's what I mean, that type of thing. So you can have, I think of, what's it called? Nihokuni? Ninokuni? Is it?
Yes.
Yes.
I was about to say, I think
Nino Kuni,
I think.
Wrath of the White Witch, and they have a similar like Pokemon type of battle system. But then the characters are following you, and you can control. The only thing about that, I think, is that you will probably have to limit the amount of Pokemon that each character has on their team, because you can't have 6 Pokemon. You can, but you will probably have to change the battle system.
To happen is that like between you and the other characters, there can be an overall of 6 Pokemon.
I would say like instead. Like each character would have 3.
Possible. I don't know. I feel like they might be a little snobby about it and be like, no, it's 2. It's the stereotypical 6 Pokemon system.
Yeah. No, I would just be because I would go in and just like change. See, that's why I'm not a Pokemon game developer, because I'll be like, because when I was little, I always wanted like a Pokemon contest game too. A game that can go fully around contests, or you can choose whether you want to go through the gym challenge and do Pokemon contests. I'm like, make the whole Pokemon contest thing a whole game system. Do a whole thing where you can add battles into Pokemon contests. The dressing of the Pokemon, you can pick what your trainer wears, all this stuff, and you can have a rival in the Pokemon contest. I mean, make that a full thing, not just a side thing. Because they do have that stuff in Pokemon contests, but make it a full thing. That's what I need. Because that would be so much fun. I feel like, because I guess I was obsessed with Pokemon contests when I was little. Because we need to get back to Genshin. We'll get back to Genshin in a second. But see, but I was obsessed because watching Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and then seeing Don doing like all the Pokemon contest stuff. And then I got to Platinum and I played the Pokemon contest, but they weren't as cool as they were in the anime compared to like regular like gym battles and stuff, which were just as cool, I think, in the anime. They were different, but just as cool. I'm like, man, I want to go and participate in the Pokemon contests all across the region and then go have the finale thing, my rival. And you can have a version of the type of Elite Four. Like, I don't know, like a contest Elite Four or something like that. And beat them up. And then you can also do the gym battles if you want. I want that. I want a Pokemon contest.
Maybe you should be the first developer for that.
Be the first developer. I don't think I have enough, like, I don't have the desire strong enough to do that. Yeah, I'm like,
you don't want to go contend at Pokemon.
I want to tell you to do it, but I don't want to do it because I feel like there's too much work to do something that I'm not that invested in.
Yeah, I got
I haven't played any newer Pokemon games since Sun and Moons because I don't have a Switch. I always pay attention to Pokemon news, but I never played any of the Pokemon games after Sun and Moon, which is sad. It saddens me.
It's okay. We'll change that one day.
We'll change it one day. I'll get a Switch one day.
Yeah.
Because apparently we're not getting another new type of Switch for many years to come. So even if it's even a Switch by that point, it'll be like I don't know, Stitch. I don't know. What?
Maybe by then they'll release new.
Nintendo would do something like that though.
They'll be like, we finally did it, y'all. The game completed. Anniversary. Here. We bring you.
Nintendo is the type of company that does whatever they want to do. Yeah. And they don't care.
They got the backing and the money.
Yeah. They're like, we fund ourselves. We don't need all that. Nintendo be doing all that type of stuff. They'll do like Mario Kart, adding all the DLC, all those course packs or whatever, just because they can. I'm like, you can make a whole new Mario Kart. They're like, no, we're just going to add all these courses. They do stuff like that. I'm fine with it. They can take their money because I'm not paying for it. So
I was going to say, wait and take all your money, but Genshin Impact can't take any of your money.
Nintendo has a special like strategy. I don't know how they do it.
You get rewarded in little currencies that you can get characters with.
I can do that in how many Nintendo games? Let's think about that for a second, huh? Let's think about that for a second. I can do that in how many other Nintendo games and get a full game. And I can play games like Fire Emblem where I can romance my characters and have children or whatever, or, do all that stuff. And then I have to come to Genshin and spend money on what character that I'm probably not going to play as.
Hey, I'm sorry. Not all of us are like OG main character stands like you. Like, I left my Traveler supporting the party from the sidelines.
My Traveler's
always
in my party. Always in my party. Mostly because I hardly have any characters. But then also because it's fun to run around as the main character. It makes me feel like a main character. Dang. That kind of sounds kind of...
The therapy. We should talk
main character of the game, not main character. It's just it's the idea of playing as the main character and them being a part of the story throughout the entire way, not just a part of cutscenes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. I definitely think it's like there's a perk to it. Like you can make your Traveler like your main character. Very OP. Like there are people who do it. I just am the elements that I like to use, we do not have readily for the Traveler yet. So maybe that'll change for me once we get to those areas. And my Traveler gets those powers.
Yeah. All right. So maybe we should get actually into the game. Stop talking about Pokemon or whatever we're talking about. And we were talking about how you got into Genshin. Let me think about how did I get into Genshin? Honestly, no. I think because I saw like when it first came out, because I got it when it first came out, as soon as it came on PlayStation. Because we were in school then, like that weekend, I came back home that weekend and I just downloaded it on my PlayStation. Because I didn't want to play it on my phone or whatever. And so I think my screen was broken on my phone that time too. Like this one, but it was a different phone I had. You see this little cow phone right here? Yeah. It was my iPhone 6 that I had. And so I broke that one too first. And so I got Genshin. No, because it came out. I don't remember. Anyways, moral of the story is I downloaded it on my PlayStation 4. I played it for a few days and then I never returned back to it. And I deleted it off the system after a little while. Because I was always like I kept up with some of the stuff that Genshin was going on because who was our classmate? One of our classmates was playing Genshin, and I'll ask her about it every now and then. You came up to me talking about Genshin or whatever. I'm like, these people are crazy. Maybe I should get back into the game. Because you would be on your phone like this, playing on Genshin, like your head would just be down. I'm like, these people are obsessed with this crazy anime game. Maybe I should come back to it. And then I saw that Aloy was on there. But then Aloy was on there. I never played the game, so I missed the opportunity. Because I was like, I'm going to go back then, but I didn't go back. And that's how I got into Genshin, truly. That, and I played Honkai Impact 3rd. See, I have a habit of, because it's made by the same studio, I have a habit of going into those games, playing them for a little bit, and then never returning. And I wish that game was on PlayStation. I know they're adding the Star Rail game on PlayStation, so I'm excited for that.
Star Rail definitely is going to be interesting to go on a tangent, just because it's like combining Genshin and Honkai Impact, like very much futuristic-y like Honkai, but like similar gameplay to Genshin, so it's very more interactive and your characters off the bat.
And it's turn-based too. I like turn-based games sometimes, depending on the game. Like Persona, Dragon Quest 11. I love Dragon Quest 11. The game is just so simple, but it does everything right. But we'll get to that later if we ever get to that. But back to Genshin, how should we do this? Should we go to the story first? Yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah, we could definitely do story first. Now, I guess this is my part of the show.
Yeah, Sabrina's taking over. Sabrina's the host. Great.
I know, right? I'm the main character now, Kaiser.
I mean, that's
okay. So we start the story opens up as two siblings are jumping universe worlds and sister twins, and as they're like making their way through one of their jumps, like shooting stars through the sky, they are halted by an unknown god.
Yeah.
The god tells them basically that they should not hold such power, and at that point, that's when you, as the player, decide whether or not you're going to be the male or female.
Who'd you pick, Sabrina? Who'd you pick?
Obviously, I picked the superior, the boy. Just because design was just, it was a little more darker, like design. His clothes are very like earthy browns, and I don't know. I was just like, yes, his braid is beautiful. He's got this beautiful long flowing braid.
Yeah, so that's like the complete opposite. I picked Lumii because I said, that's the girl. I'm going to pick her. That's me in mostly every game.
Yeah, her, in comparison, she's a very lighter design.
She is.
Got these beautiful light blue. She's really
I feel
cute.
like male characters, like that are main characters, they go a bit harder on the main protagonist type of design. And then when it comes to female characters, they go a bit less. I feel like when it comes to like main characters in like video games, when you have to
Genshin was not terrible about that. Like I feel like both received a good amount of attention. However, opinion as we continue through this explanation, I'm not going to give too much away now, but depending on who you pick, your other siblings like attitude is different. So like after you pick this character, obviously your sibling is taken away by the unknown god. Like you black out and your sibling is encased in this like jail like geometric structure, and you wake up in the unknown world of Tavana.
Yeah.
You're saved by your guide Paimon, who's like this
cute little thing.
Yeah, a lot of people actually quit playing the game because of her.
I think
like they don't make it that far.
I think they will whenever they saw Paimon, because Paimon, I don't think Paimon is that annoying. But when you see that type of character, the first thing that comes to your head is like, "Hey, listen!" Zelda Ocarina of Time.
It's like she's the Navi of this game.
Just less annoying, actually.
Well, so some people find her like really annoying because her voice is very high pitched, and she's a very like persistent character. She's basically your railroad. Like she guides you on the quote unquote correct path, which some people don't like being told what to do, which I understand. But I feel like after, like, obviously for the first section of the game, like, your tutorial town, she's very, like, persistent. Yeah. Whereas, like, as you play the game from that point, I find her, like, she, like, completely gets, like, less, I say verbal in the sense of, like, you need to go here, and, like, constantly reminding you. And maybe it's also, I just got used to her. You have the option to either be really nice with her and, like, back her up, or you can be like, oh, your emergency food.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that. There was like the one joke where I'm like, I'm gonna.
That is that she is emergency food. One of my favorite tags I've ever seen, because on Genshin, like on your account, you can write a little 1-sentence comment about yourself, and most of the time people put like memes. And I remember one person was like, Paimon doesn't actually look that appetizing.
Paimon is
Like,
cute.
they didn't actually want to eat
She's
her.
like this little character, this like fairy type of character. Does she have like white hair? It's whitish, and then
Yes, she does.
I find her so cute. But I always find characters like that, also small characters like that. I always feel like they're secret.
So that is like the biggest theory of Genshin Impact. A lot of people theorize that she is the unknown god that separated you and your sibling. So like it is theorized that like she's your guide this whole time, and she has like some split personality that is like this greater power that rules over all.
Yeah, because it reminds me of Bravely Default. The spoilers for Bravely Default, if nobody played that game, it came out like 10 years ago. But the main little fairy character is actually the main antagonist, or one of the main antagonists. So you travel with her throughout the entire game, and then all of a sudden, she betray you, and then she's evil, but she's still. I feel like because I never really got far into Bravely Default. I only played the demo, so I only watched videos of the game. From my understanding, 2/3 of the way through, because they're at the end, and like at the end of Bravely Default, it's this time travel thing. So you have to do the same thing over and over and over and over again, like the last half of the game. And I think you find out she's evil, but she still has to travel with you, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And so I just find that hilarious. And that's why whenever I see Paimon, I like Paimon, but I'm like, you kind of evil. There's something about you.
You're sus.
Yeah, something about you. I mean, it's fine. You can have a redemption arc, or you can be evil and still travel with me, because that'll be a fun little dynamic.
Like I said, the theory is that she has like this, like in separating your sibling from you, she used up all her power and is left almost like with amnesia. And she offers to help you throughout Teyvat, but she knows a little too much about the world, in my opinion. Like, she's not all-knowing, obviously, but to be able to guide you throughout a whole country, but be so, like, they play her off as being very, like, she's a little dumb, but she's, like, very charismatic in that, like, she's loud and boisterous. Or this small little, like, fairy character that's your companion, which is really good, because as, like, the traveler, you've just been through, like, a very traumatic experience, and she's kind of pulling you out of your slump and encouraging you to move throughout the world, and along the way helping all these people.
Yeah.
Actually, your starter friend for like your guy.
Yeah.
And so of course, back to like the story. The first town she brings you is called Mondstadt. And very much based off of like German culture. Like it's very much like each country kind of gets their own origins from like countries that we have in our real world, like as people. And the town that like Mondstadt and the country are under the domain of the god of anima, which is your element of wind, and it represents freedom. God himself is named Barbados, and by chance, as you go into the town, you see a dragon that is tormenting the town.
Oh,
the main
and you
capital.
also run into Amber too. Amber is one of the main characters of this. She's like Amber's like the best CC main character.
Yeah, she's like, she gives you your credibility in the town because she has such a.
Do you run into Amber anytime after the prologue chapter?
She plays a lot as like a. So even though you go further into the story quest, there will be events that happen annually in each area. So like Mondstadt has this festival called Windbloom, and it's about how the god Barbados had a flower which represented freedom, and the idea is that you give your flower to the people you love as a sign of like freedom and goodwill and a happy year to spend together. And so she is like a very consistent character that follows you back to Mondstadt. Speaking of Amber, along your way into this country, you get your first free characters. So these are going to be your basic elements that you find in the game that do the most, I say, damage when worked together. You get Amber, who is an outrider. She's part of the Knights of Favonius, like a group that protects Mondstadt, their governing body. Almost like they're like a democracy. It's like a group of knights that work together to protect the town. And she's like in charge of exploration, making sure everything's okay. And she's teaches everybody how to glide. And that's how you learn how to glide in the game. She gives you a test and you get your gliding license. Then you get your second character, who is Kaiser. He is part of the cavalry force. He's
eye
the
patch
leader.
guy.
He's
Yes.
It's like saucy. He's like, oh, I'm dark and mysterious. He thinks he's so
He's
cool.
not dark. He's so pale.
But he's got like, I meant like,
I know what you meant. Double joke.
Yeah.
But he's funny.
He very much like can't tell necessarily when he's lying. So definitely like everybody in the community is like, man, he's sus. But he is a sword user and he uses cryo, which is like ice freeze powers.
I like him a lot.
And,
I like his powers a lot too.
He is like first experience, I guess, is like when you use his like elemental burst ability. So that's like his overall ability. It allows you to change characters and it'll still do damage. So it's like a nice skill to learn and like to start out with. And then you have Lisa, who is the librarian. She is like this she's flirty, like fun, boisterous witch who
Probably a
assists
witch.
the leader of the part of one of the biggest ships in Genshin Impact, she is shipped with Jean, who is the leader of the Knights of Favonius.
Really?
So yes, it's like really cute. It's like not confirmed canon because obviously China has some very weird rules on love and identity and gender because of their cultural beliefs and expectations. But it is very much like the community is like, there's no way that these two, like, there are lines where it's like, oh yeah, we go out and do stuff together all the time.
I never thought about that,
and I'm
actually.
like, oh, you go, yeah, no. And there is an event where like you follow Jean, it's her character quest, and Lisa is a big part in it. And you're like, oh, so you're helping your girlfriend. I mean, your friend. Like, you know.
Oh, I never thought about that,
totally,
actually.
Like, that's not the actual. I don't think they're actually roommates, but all I can think
They're
is that meme where it's like, and they
roommates, yeah.
Back to the story. You end up, of course, the spoilers now. You continue forward, and obviously your quest for this town is that you have to stop the dragon that is terrorizing the town. Upon your quest, as you're like going to solve the problem, you bump into a bard named Venti. And he is who you've seen as you enter the town, talking to the dragon, like trying to calm the dragon with his music, because he's a bard. So he takes you on the quest and leads you into trying to actually save the dragon, because you find out he is being controlled by a dark force. And upon finding the dragon, you do a gliding quest, and you jump on its back, and you destroy this crystal, which has been embedded in its skin that is glowing like dark, spewing like nasty magic. And when that happens, of course, you drop down and it takes you to a boss battle.
Yeah.
And once defeating the dragon, you find out that it was actually being controlled by this group called the Abyss Order. And it's like this group of evildoers from the dark unknown, where magic of the abyss and darkness is used to like try and take over the world of Teyvat. And after defeating the dragon, release it, and you find out that it is actually one of the spirits of this world, of Barbados, the god of wind. And it is, I cannot remember exactly, I think it's I want to say it's the northern wind, what it is. And it's meant to actually protect the people of Mondstadt. And so once it's freed, like, it becomes a weekly boss that you can go defeat to get character materials, but it's saved. And also you find out that Venti, the bard who assisted you, is actually the god of wind.
Venti is like this cute little boy, though. So he's a cute little boy, but he's an alcoholic. He's like, it's canon that he just literally will go to the bar and drink all their wine. He definitely is a little scoundrel. True.
For sure.
He's sarcastic, too. You better sit down somewhere. But then I realized you like a god, so you can make...
Very much. And technically, he's one of the only remaining gods. So in the country of Teyvat, it's called the God of Seven. And when there was like this giant battle amongst all the gods, which used to roam the land to create order, they all fought each other, and 7 prevailed, 1 for each element in the world. And so
elements.
He's one of the original.
Okay, so what elements are in Genshin so people can know like what they are?
And so the first one, like we just said for Mondstadt, is going to be Anemo, which is the wind. Then there is Cryo, which is ice, like freeze. Then there is Geo, which is like ground rocks. Then there's Electro, which is going to be like obviously electricity, slap, boom, sparks. Like. And then there's Dendro, which is going to be like green grow like type. Then there's Hydro, which is like water, and then Pyro, which is fire.
Yes.
They definitely play a big role in the combat style of the game. Like, different elements will interact with one another to create as you fight. So rather than just doing physical damage, which is like swinging a sword and hitting someone with a normal attack, you can apply Hydro by hitting them, say, with water.
Or say you play as Dog, or say you play as Amber and you have your little fire arrows. You can actually set things on fire.
And then if you use electricity after that, it'll create an explosion called superconductor. So we go back to, you were talking about the arrow, and yes, Electro, it creates superconduct, so it just literally explosion. But they just play really important roles. Like, you could even, like I said, hit something with Hydro, and if you hit it with Cryo right after, it freezes your enemies in place. There's a lot you can do with it, and like certain characters even get buffs, like perks, whenever you do these reactions. So it'll either make them like stronger, and recently they've even included characters who, like, as you're roaming the map, his name is Baiju. He's set to release soon, if not already by the time this airs. But when he's on the map, he's a Dendro character, and if he picks up certain plants off just the ground, he heals your active character. He heals the party. Who they are and like their elements will affect how you play and like the perks you get while playing. Venti, the god of wind too. He, like, whenever you glide, he uses less stamina. if he's in your
I didn't
team.
know that part. I know he can create like the wind
Yes.
and then you can fly up.
Yes. But no, yeah, he decreases your stamina taken when
Wow.
gliding. Because he even makes a joke about it. He said, "Wouldn't gliding be faster?" Is one of his lines when you're walking
I
around.
didn't know that.
After you leave Mondstadt, obviously you go to help him, and as you're walking back to like your old town to rest down for the day with him, he is stopped by a woman dressed up finely, claiming that she is there to take his gnosis. Each god has, it looks like a little chess piece, and it's called a gnosis. It's what connects them to the heavens for all the gods. It's for Celestia. That's the name of the heavens. And so it's what makes him, in a sense, quote unquote, a god. Even though once it's gone, he doesn't lose his power because he was powerful before, disconnects him from the heavens in a sense. Like it's taking away his like title. So of course he's like, "Nah, woman, you can't take my power. Like I'm the god, I'm protecting these people. You need to go mind your own business." And of course she doesn't like that. And she said, "Well, I'm with the Fatui and I'm with the Saritsa, who is another god of the country. She's the god of cryo." And she's like, "I'm taking your gnosis." And so she beats y'all up. Because obviously, you can't take
It's a
on
cool
the big
cutscene,
boss.
though.
And so this cool cutscene, they hold him, they take his gnosis out, and get away. And you're just like, no.
It's the god Barbados, right? Like right.
I think you learn before then. I think you learn as like you're like flying to chase after the dragon. He's like, "I'll help you. I'll use my power to create wind currents so that you can chase after him."
Yeah.
I know it's been 3 years since I've done it, but I remember like it was yesterday. It's like a flashback.
It's been like
to
only
war.
a few months since I've done it.
But from there, you go to the next country, which is obviously Liwa, which is modeled after China, the country where this game is made. And it's very different, like, terrain. Like I said, each country is heavily influenced, in a sense, by, like, the terrains found in that area. So Mondstadt was definitely, like, hills, cliffs, very green, forested, while Liwa is going to be more mountainous and definitely more like similar to what you'd find across like Asia in general, like the difference in environments that you'd see across the whole country. Rivers, like beautiful coasts, and so you get all the cool terrain. But the reason you're going is because you want to meet the god of Geo. His name is Morax, or the people of Liwa call him Rex Lapis out of respect. And so you go to meet him because he is actually the oldest god, and like the oldest god, and he is also one of the remaining also from the original 7 as well. So you go to meet him and you're on your quest, and of course as you arrive to speak to him, you are thrown by the reality that he has just been murdered. And as an outlander, like somebody who is not of this country, all fingers point to you.
I killed Morax?
No, you didn't kill nobody.
Okay.
You just showed up. Okay. But everybody, of course, is like, "Man, you're hella sus. You're new here.
It is my fault. No, it's not. I didn't kill him."
But he is murdered, and of course you have to run away. And, like, everything is thrown for a loop because you're like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on? We needed to talk to him, and now he's dead." So eventually your name is cleared because, like, after sneaking out the town, it's like a whole... I don't know if you'll like it when you get there in the game. It's definitely really hard to try and sneak out and not get caught by anybody. It's like a stealth mission, like a puzzle to avoid, like, the gazes of everyone as you're running away.
Shouldn't be wearing all that white.
Your name your name eventually gets cleared, if I remember correctly, because you bump into a character named Child. And so he is like a big name in the town, and he works for a bank, and so he offers to clear your name and like prove your innocence. So you end up like meeting the head of the government in Liwa. Her name is Ningguang, and like you explain what happened, and she says, "Okay, well, you can try and prove your innocence, and as we're doing that, we'll work on the funerary processions for the god." And so you, of course, like you're trying to get all the information on how it could have happened and going through the quest while seeking and getting help from Child and another character named Zhang Li, who works for the funeral parlor that is holding his funeral. And Zhang Li is like this very tall guy, like very calm, but like almost all-knowing. Like he knows like everything there is to know about Liwa. And so he's very intelligent. He tells you all the parts of the funeral. Meanwhile, Child is basically funding the whole project.
So Child is rich?
And oh yeah, the man runs a bank. Yo, that's one of the memes, is that he's got all the money and Zhang Li has none of the money. They're like, yeah, Child is Zhang Li's sugar daddy.
It makes sense.
I know, right? Like throwing out all that Mora. Mora is the currency of like Tevat, and ironically, the god of Liwa, he's the god of contracts, the god of Geo. So Liwa center is a port where like all these merchants come and make deals. And so, of course, the money currency that people use for exchange is named after him, Morax. Of course, everybody's just
wow, all this lore that I did not know, the character drama, the sugar daddies.
So another theory that was actually placed out is that Morax made all the Mora. Like, he is like what is the money printing service of like America. He makes all the money coins. So there was like a funny theory like video that came out that was like, what happens now that Morax is dead? Who's gonna make all the Mora?
Wow.
Like, they can't make any more money kind of situation. Anyway, the funeral processions come, but what nobody like ends up realizing is that he still has his gnosis. And since this lady is going around stealing gnosis,
is that how you say it?
Like, from all these gods, I don't know. It's like gnosis. The gods, like the traveler goes to check the body with the permission of Ningguang, the head of like government. And also what they're realizing is that from like with the god gone, the seal on this monster that is been sealed away by him years ago could possibly be freed, taken by the wrong person. So you get there and you bump into Child at the place where the body's being held. It's called, I think it's the Golden House is what it's called. It's supposed to be like his resting place where people come and pray. And when you get there to check the body of the dragon, Child is there, and he admits that he's actually in leagues with the woman and is part of the Fatui that was trying to steal the gnosis.
OMG.
Yes. So when checking the body, nobody could find the gnosis, and you end up fighting him, and he becomes another weekly boss. Like that you fight
another weekly boss.
And so
I get what you mean because he's a weekly boss, but okay.
So you fight him, and he has 3 phases, because in the Fatui you find out that the harbingers, like the leaders of the group, have what is called a delusion. It's like a fake vision. So each character who can use an element has what's called a vision. And it's what gives them their elemental power. It's graced to them like in a time of hardship or passed down to them within a family. And it's what gives them their elemental power. He has a vision, which is Hydro. It makes him a water archer. His delusion, which is like it's a item created by, I don't know if it's specifically the Fatui, but it basically is full of dark abyssal magic. And it changes your elemental ability. Like, it gives you a second one. But in exchange for that, it also deteriorates your life because it's dark magic. So in his fight for power, like his desire to become stronger, he took on the delusion years ago, and it's Electro. So he does what is like an electrocution combo. So his first form is his Hydro Bow. His second form is an Electro form that uses, I think it's technically like almost dual swords and a bow. And then his final form is, I think it's, gosh, I haven't fought him in forever. I want to say it's like a Masked Legacy or something of that nature, where he does like the combo of using swords, bow, and it's Electro and Hydro damage.
That confuses me. The part where he's trying to get more power, so he has the delusion, right? But that shortens his lifespan. So does he uses it shortens his life?
So yes. So whenever he like uses that like power, it basically grates
So
on his
what
life
if he
force.
keeps using it, and then all of a sudden he gets to the power, but then he dies as soon as he like
It doesn't matter. So he actually has a tragic backstory. Child joined the Fatui Harbingers because he has younger siblings that he's trying to take care of. So in joining this, like, in a sense, it's a gang. It's like a group of evildoers. Not that all gangs are groups of evildoers, but he joins this group in order to get money to be able to earn money for his family. And he takes it on because he wants to become stronger to be able to protect his family. And so he doesn't care, whatever it takes, he will get stronger so that nobody can ever take away what is important to him. And so that's also why he's trying to get the Gnosis. He's trying to get in favor because there's like a hierarchy to the Harbingers. He, if I remember correctly, is relatively low on the list. Like he is considered one of, I say weaker members. He's not necessarily weak, as in he's more so, I think, like newer to the organization because he's younger, and he's also just what is considered like more emotionally, I say, driven. Like, he's swayed by the Traveler. He like sees the Traveler as a friend when they're meant to be enemies. He's like not cold, hard as nails. Like, I don't care who I gotta betray to get where I need to be.
So he's in love with me.
I
mean, the Traveler.
No, he's Lee because he gives him money.
Is that really love though? If we're the ones who changed his heart, I'm just pointing.
Yeah, Kaiser. You're just looking for the romance
It's
in
fine.
this. It's fine.
It's okay. I can give you all the money. It's called real war money. I can
Yeah.
just put it in the game and then get whatever I want.
You were hating on the gacha system. But so after you defeat him, obviously the house like is destroyed by your amazing fight that you guys just participated in, and you leave. And of course you go to find Zhongli because he's all-knowing, like he has to know something. And when you get there, sure enough, he's making a deal with the woman who stole the Gnosis because he is the god of Geo. He is Rex Lapis.
I knew it. No, I didn't, but I knew it.
In exchange for helping him
Yeah.
fake his death and doing another favor for him, they made a contract and he gave her his Gnosis. And you find out that the whole reason he faked his death was actually to allow the people to move on, because he believes that Liyue was in a time where it was holding on too tightly to its god. They were relying on him to answer all these big questions, which he didn't mind. He loved his people. But he also knew that they needed to learn that they were strong
So he
enough to be
ghosted
without
them.
him.
And they were codependent.
Kinda, not really. Yeah. Like, he didn't want to abandon them, but he also knew that they needed to learn that, like, they were strong enough to do it on their own. And, like, people like Ning Guang, who was the head of the government, they were moving away from a system that relied heavily on the gods. They were trying to be very self-sufficient. And also, can you imagine being a god and working for hundreds and thousands of years and never getting a break, like always having to, like, in a sense, be responsible for the people when they were fully capable of taking care of themselves? They were strong enough, and it's not like he plans to abandon them. Like, he still is his like human persona, Zhongli. He still walks around them. He still helps them. He just wanted them to know that they were strong enough to continue.
No, I can't
without him.
imagine it. That's why I turned to you, and that's why you're the god. So what?
But so after this happens, though, of course you try and stop La Signora, and as that happens, she releases the beast that was originally trapped by Morax hundreds of years ago, and it's up to you to fight this big monster and help the people of Liyue survive from the monster. Its name is Osiris. It's like this giant water noodle snake-looking thing. It has 3 heads, and it's up to you to, like, defeat it. But in the midst of fighting, obviously, you're not strong enough alone. The old groups, like Morax, was assisted by what are called Adepti. They're like these animalistic spirit-looking entities, similar to gods, but not on the level of gods. They appear as like the old generation of the country and met with like actual people of Liyue who are there to help fight as well. And they work together, in a sense, the old and the new generation, to save the people.
Wow,
of
look at
Liyue.
that.
So it's almost like the lesson of like the people learned that they were strong enough without their god to do it and protect themselves.
Now they can become gods.
And necessarily they can become gods, but they realize that the world of contracts doesn't end just because the god of contracts disappears. There's still contracts to be made, there's still relationships and bonds to form, and it's time for the older generation to like step back and let the newer generation
and roll over all the
flourish
rest of the world and become gods.
So at the end, of course, you talk to Zhongli and you're like, dude, why'd you make that decision? And he gives you the whole explanation I just gave. And he says that the next place we should head to find information about our sibling would be to Inazuma, which is the Electro country, which lies under the rule of the Raiden Shogun, who is their like leader in the country. However, you are unable to go to Inazuma because it is under blockade right now. Like, no outsiders are allowed into the country because they have what is called the Sankoku Decree, I think is what it's called, or maybe it's not Sankoku. It's some kind of vision hunt decree, which means everybody who had a vision was hunted down and had their vision taken away because the god no longer felt they were responsible enough to have them. And so, of course, the country's in disarray and it's shut down from the rest of the world. And keep in mind, as like, the game is obviously updating in patches. As we get these like main country-based stories, we're also getting stories about you and your sibling. So during this break, it was another time that you actually got content on your sibling. And so you went ahead and you end up finding out that your sibling has actually, like, through this character named Dainsleif, he's like this knight from a country called Conria. And Conria was destroyed, like, I think it was 500 years ago by the gods because it was a country that did not believe in any gods or the power of gods. They were basically a state of humans for humans. And so they created a bunch of mechanical structures. They did were these geniuses in technology. Because they became too powerful, the heavens Celestia said that they needed to be destroyed. So your sibling, you find out through Dainsleif, who he admits that he was her companion, because when the original destruction of Conria happened, as he was the leader of all the knights of the country, he was cursed to forever walk the world knowing that he was unable to save those in
so sad.
So he originally joined your sibling thinking that she was doing what was best to make amends and in my world, it's a girl.
Right.
Your sibling and Dainsleif thought that they were doing what was right. But at some point, Dainsleif realized that your sibling was doing whatever it took in falling prey to the abyss power. Darkness. Yes. So he stopped helping them, and he was basically decided that he needed you to step in to stop your sibling from going too far. Speaking of your sibling becoming this very villainous character, there's a lot of debates about who is quote unquote the better villain, whether it's Aether is the better villain or Lumine is the better. In my opinion, because obviously the actors play their character differently, through voice acting and whatnot. So I find that Aether is definitely more of the solemn villain. He's very quiet, very sad, and it's he plays it very solemnly. Whereas Lumen almost plays her more, it's almost and at least from what I've seen, it's this icy bite is how her voice actress plays it. I almost prefer her as the villain because the people of Conria were cursed. They literally just wanted to be themselves, only to be punished by the heavens. So almost angry for them, whereas I feel Aether's carrying the burden.
Aether is more boring, is what you're saying. He's a bit more boring. He's
Some people love that. There's a big pop in anime manga community right now for sad boys who are villains because they're trying.
That's because
to do
people
what is
love
right.
vanilla.
Whereas
we know it's true.
I don't know, but I guess there's also a spike in very, what's the word? Verbal and proud and amazingly strong women also. So Lumen is
That's
also
good for her. I'm proud of
reason.
her that does all the things and can talk to stuff. And
they never outright call them a villain because in Genshin it's all about perspective. So who is to say who is the real villain kind of situation. But and again, I'm being very vague with these descriptions and explanations just because I'm trying not to give away all the details. So if people do decide to play, which they should, they don't play knowing that they know the gist, but they don't know every little bit. They can still enjoy the story as they move their way through. So you end up facing off your sibling, you just barely get a glance at
sibling fight.
Your
Yes, I love fighting my siblings.
Because you don't actually get to fight your sibling.
I said that. Then.
You fight what is basically their messenger, and then in the last second, as you're fighting that messenger, your sibling steps in and you go to reach out to them and chase after them, and they just disappear right before your eyes. The point is you never. Honestly, up until this point, to my knowledge, you never actually get to fully meet your sibling. They don't, in a sense, respond fully to you. It's almost they're on a journey for a greater cause, and they've detached themselves to an extent from you to keep themselves resolved in their mission. Because you, in a sense, are their weakness. You are their other half.
Yeah, that makes sense.
After this interaction with your sibling, of course, miraculously, the decree in Inazuma is, I say lifted. It's not completely lifted. Technically, people are still banned from going in and out the country, but you receive help from someone to get to they smuggle you into the country. And so you arrive to Inazuma, and of course, you can't go anywhere in the beginning because you're an outsider. You don't have any kind of legal papers or documentation saying you could be there. So you're restricted to the first island. And through helping a noble on that island deliver a love letter to the man she's in love with, you are given papers saying that you can stay and travel throughout Inazuma. So you find out that the god is almost become detached from her people and has, for whatever reason, put out this decree that is hyper controlling them. And as her belief, what Electro stands for is for eternity. She's the god of eternity. And so she believes that the only way to obtain eternity is for things to become unchanging. So visions lead to change. It leads to reactions. It leads to possible uprisings. And so her mindset and controlling
that's
that
an interesting way to look at it.
And so there's this fear almost amongst the people. They still believe in their god. She's all powerful. She's protected them. But there's a tension of lines going on, like a
Mhm.
obviously it's like a hunt. It's almost like
Yeah.
not a genocide, I won't say, because kill the people, but she takes away their vision, which is like their liveliness, their
So,
heart,
do they become like
their
zombies
passion.
in a sense?
But some do, but not all. They basically become like they're described as like shells of themselves because obviously they've
Yeah.
just had their vision taken away. It's like a big part of their identity. So obviously you travel the country and you're assisted by, ironically, one of the governing houses of the country. There's 3 families which make up like the government in Inazuma. The one that helps you is the Kamisato clan, and they agree to help you and assist you in basically trying to confront the shogun and solve like why is this going on, bring freedom
Okay.
back to the people. And obviously you end up, there comes a point where the person who's assisting you ends up getting caught. His name is Toma. He's a
It's always
servant
the
from the
servants.
Kamisato clan. And as he's about to have his vision taken away, like
Oh.
publicly in front of everyone, you end up intercepting the fight to save him. Because obviously you're the hero. You can't let that shit slide. You can't let that stuff slide. And so
Yeah.
you move forward and like you end up in this battle with her. But as you battle her, she pulls out her, I'm gonna butcher this. I apologize for anyone who speaks Japanese. Hidetachi no something, and it's her sword born purely from electro energy. And as you go to fight her, you're brought to this plane of like alternate existence, like where everything is just this haze of purple, and it's called the Ithymia, which is like the subconscious world. And so she battles you there, and you have like no power. You are literally like about to die when Toma breaks free and saves you, picks you up over his shoulder, and runs away from the fight. And so at that point, you're in hiding, and you go to one of the outer islands of Inazuma, because it's an island-based nation. It's modeled after Japan. And the island that he takes you to actually has a resistance on it. Like, it's called
Wow.
Watatsumi, and they've basically separated themselves from the main country as like their own government. And it's run by this priestess named Sanganomiya Kokomi. And she's like a strategist. She's like this, you'd love her, Kaiser. Honestly, she's a character I can imagine you wanting because she has this very beautiful pastel aesthetic, light pinks, light blues, lavenders, dark purples, dark blues. She's like beautiful. But she looks cute, but she's got a really
It's
good
got
brain.
a really good
like,
brain.
Leader of the rebellion.
Yeah, I got you.
And so you end up joining the resistance and of course go to battle against the shogunate's army. And in the midst of battle, I don't recall how it happens, but you end up going to the lair of the Raiden shogun. And while there, you end up seeing her talking to who other than La Senora, the woman collecting.
She just everywhere. She having a ball. How come every time we go to a place, she's in that exact place? Like,
the idea is that we're following a trail to try and stop her before she gets to H-God. So she's there trying to argue with the shogun as to why she should receive the vision. And like, not the vision, the gnosis. Of course, the shogun, you find out that she is actually a shell. She is a robot, basically. And the real god is inside of her. So the robot was created, yes. So the god of Inazuma could no longer trust herself to be unbiased after a terrible event happened with all of her friends. And so to maintain eternity and for things to be unchanging, she created a robot which would protect eternity. And that robot is what was governing the people. And you find out that the robot was taken advantage of by the Fatui,
that sounds
the
miserable.
evil
I'm not
organization.
lying. Dang, sis.
So you find out that they basically used the robot's programming to convince it that the only way to preserve eternity was to take away people's visions. And as you're obviously trying to stop this from happening, the shogun ends up asking if you would, I don't know if she asks or how it goes about, but long story short, she says, you two, if you duel, the loser obviously will not get the gnosis. They lose. And the winner will live free. Like they will continue to live on in eternity. So you battle La Senora, and big spoiler, you end up defeating her. Yes, she's like this big bad character for like first, in a sense, 3 chapters, first 3 countries of the game, and you fight her, and her ability, her vision is a pyro, and her delusion is cryo. So she's called the Crimson Witch, and she's like this, it's like a really interesting phased battle. She starts out with cryo, very cold, collected, and like the room is controlled by the icy temperature, so your
Like
character's freezing as you fight her. Once you break her cocoon as like the ice cocoon, she turns into that fiery crimson witch. And you have to, the room is like on fire. You're literally burning as you fight her.
She looks like
you defeat her.
Yeah, she
When
looks
you
like a mix of like
sorry, go.
like Phoenix from like the X-Men, like the Phoenix suit. And then if you ever play
Yes.
Final Fantasy VIII, I can't remember who the main villain, the witch is. You know what I'm talking about?
I
Well,
do not
she looks
think
like a mix
so.
between those two characters. She's cool. She's evil. She's great. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, she has a tragic backstory too. So she was actually in love with a knight who ended up getting betrayed by the very people he was sworn to protect. And when he was killed, because the people were, I forget how it happened, but he was basically murdered. And when the town basically crucified him, she awoke in her vision, and with her fiery rage, she burned down the whole town because her lover was killed. And she was lonely and sad, and the only way to cool her rage was to get a delusion of ice, which cooled
That's a
her
bit on the
anger.
nose, but I get it. But here, wait, her name is Sorceress. No, my phone. Her name is Sorceress, and she looks like this.
Yeah.
Can you see her?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, that is cool. She a baddie.
She knows what's up. I think she has a tragic backstory too. Huh.
But anyway, so you defeat her, and at the end of the battle, La Signora turns to the Raiden Shogun to explain how she would not lose the next fight, and as it happens, as her punishment for losing, the Shogun robot cuts off her head, and she's killed.
Sis was beheaded.
For losing the battle. Because anyone who dared to challenge the Shogun, which this was a fight before the Shogun, as the witness, penalty was death. So you end up the robot says it is your time to leave.
Do we become robots
while you
too?
Still can. And so no. But as you're leaving, the area around you, like the atmosphere is just becoming like unbreathable. Like your character like starts to get drowsy. It's like your vision's clouding because of the immense aura of Electro in the air.
There's a plague upon the land.
The property. And and so as you're about to exit the residence, like your rebellion team, like your team from the resistance, as you open the doors, you see them, and you turn to look behind you, and it's the Raiden Shogun robot about to attack, and as you leave the property. And so sure enough, another character steps in and blocks the sword swipe of the Hidetachi no Tenso? I'm not full sure of the name. I apologize again. But of the sword strike, and as he blocks it, like this burst of Electro happens, and you're again sucked into the Ethymia, the world like between realities, and where you meet the real goddess of Electro. Her name is Raiden A.I. So she's the real god, not the robot, and it is your job to fight her. And so as you fight her, obviously, like the first time you fight her, it's impossible to win. However, all your friends who are on the outside world this whole time have been praying for your fight to the Archon and to like their vision. And in that moment, all the visions that were taken away break from the statue that they were embedded in and go back to the people. And their strength and power, taking away from the robot, basically gives you the power
That's some
to fight
magical
back
girl
with your
energy
party. And then,
right there.
of course, yeah, very much. And so you fight the Shogun, and you end up defeating her. And when that happens, you give her the lesson of eternity is not unchanging. And the Shogun is, of course, like, you're just like her. And you find out her backstory, which is there was actually not one god of Electro. There were two.
Oh my gosh.
They were twins. Raiden
I thought you
A
were about to say
and Raiden
Raiden B.
Makoto.
Raiden A, right?
Raiden
Okay.
A and Raiden Makoto. And so you find out that Raiden Makoto was the one who was the true Archon. She loved the people. She was soft-hearted. She believed in eternity as being like, by giving love to everyone, your eternity would live on through the hearts of people. And that was eternity, eternal happiness, this togetherness, and like this innocence. But because her sister was, like, in a sense, fragile, like so soft, Raiden A would pretend to be her and go off to battle. So anytime there was a war, they claimed that it was Raiden Makoto going off to war, but it wasn't. It was her twin sister who hid in the shadows. So she would go off and fight with her. She's actually she uses it's called in the game, it's called a polearm. It's like any kind of spear-like weapon, but I think it's technically a naginata. It's like anyway, it's a traditional Japanese weapon. And so she fought with the polearm while her sister Makoto had a sword. And so she went off to war every time for her sister, doing all these great proclamations for the people. But when the cataclysm happened, which is when the gods all came together to destroy one another and like to destroy Conria, her sister Makoto went instead of her, because Makoto knew that if she
Oh
went
my
to war,
gosh.
she would die. So her sister went in her place and ended up dying. And so Raiden A was so shaken by her twin sister's death that she could not trust herself to
It's
uphold
funny.
eternity anymore.
It's funny how they
And
both hold
yeah,
those values. Like one sister looked at eternity as in something that was more happiness is in your heart. It's something that changes. It flows through time. While the other sister looked at eternity as something that should just stay the same. So the sister that dies and saw
yes.
eternity as the way that's through your heart and through happiness is she's the one that dies in battle. While the other sister that stayed, OMG, look at this so deep.
Yes, and so the idea is that the sister Makoto wanted her sister to not be held back by the
Yeah.
ideas of just war and hiding in the shadows. She knew that her sister A had the heart to become just like her. She knew that her sister, like Makoto knew that A did not just believe eternity is unchanging, but because of her like sadness, she believed that if she kept everything the same as when Makoto was alive, then everything would be good. But not necessarily. Like, of course, you go back, and at this point, A's body is technically gone, so she still has to use the robot as the body. But you find out that the sword that she was using this whole time was her sister's sword. It wasn't her own weapon. And so that's when she, like, the boss fight ends, and she sees the error in her ways, and you find out the Fatui was controlling everything the whole time. And of course, you go to check for her gnosis, and she said, "Oh, I cast away my gnosis long ago." And long story short, it ended up in the hands of the Fatui anyway. Yes, it was taken by this Fatui harbinger called the Balladeer. And he's this very sarcastic, short, and like, he looks like he is from Inazuma. So he has a connection subconsciously to the Raiden Shogun that we don't know about yet. And so, of course, it's sad. It's like, it's definitely upsetting because like it's another situation where you meet another pair of twins. It like is very
your
similar
story.
to like siblings.
I feel like they're gonna do that with the siblings somehow. Both of them are somehow gonna, towards the end of the story, get to some godlike level.
So there's a theory that the twins, so the whole motif of like the sky and like Celestia, the heavens, there's this thing on the battle pass that it tells a story of two siblings who were like descendants of like the royal family, and the kind-hearted sibling was decided to be the ruler, and in spite, the other sibling became upset and ran away from the kingdom to start their own kingdom, and it ended up being deceived and turned to darkness. And so the theory is that the siblings aren't actually like people, like they take a human form in Tevat, but they're actually like heavenly stars, and like as such they're like in a sense gods. And that's why whenever you go to a new country as the traveler, if you talk to the godly statue, you're given the power of that country. They basically there's a name card that has all of the the visions on it, like all of the elements on it. It has a stamp for everyone, but there are gaps, quote unquote, in the card where it looks like more stamps should go, like more elements should be placed. So there's a theory that there are the 7 elements, but then there's an additional 3 to make it an even 10. There's one for light, which is the heavens. There's one for darkness, which is the abyss. And then there's an unknown element that everybody theorizes is what the siblings are, the ability to take on other elements, like to absorb all things.
That's deep.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, this game plays off a lot of very serious concepts in very lighthearted ways, like through games or through, I guess, like story. And so, yeah, it is like in this very like sad moment that everything looks brighter. Like there's a chance for a positive future now that the Shogun has retaken control of her government and has like apologized to the people and is looking to make amends and contemplate what truly
learn it
eternity
for herself. Means. Maybe she's the one who should have left her people and went on the journey.
No, I don't think she should have, because I think the point is that she needs to get closer to the people, because she spent the longest time away in the shadows, what she thought was best for them and not knowing them. Which she has a story quest actually where you literally go out into town with her. It's almost like a friend's going on an outing and she gets to see the people, and you find out that she can't cook, like she's a terrible cook. and that she loves sweets. You bump into like a stall owner and they're like, "Oh, would you like to try a sample of our new milk? Nobody likes it because it's super sweet, but maybe you'd like to try it." And he's like terrified because the Raiden Shogun is right there. And she drinks it, and it's like
But isn't
sweet
she a
dango milk is what
robot?
it's called. The body technically, but her
So she can
spirit is
digest
a
stuff?
god. She's a god of
So
yes.
she won't like
Yes.
short circuit.
No. So her soul is
Yeah.
actually embedded in the weapon, like the sword of her sister. Like, I forget if they say she actually takes the robot as her form or if it's like her
Okay.
soul just comes out of the sword and she goes around with you. But she tastes the dango milk and like in the most straightest, serious face ever, she's kind of, "This is delicious." And she's like, "I'll take so many bottles." She just gifts it as a gift to everyone.
So she's
She
like
tells them to
Wonder
give it away for
Woman.
free to people.
She's like Wonder Woman with
Because
ice
she loved it
cream.
so
Do you
much.
know that Wonder Woman ice cream joke? And
No, I
so
do not.
basically when DC did another reboot in 2011 with the New 52, they had this running joke start where Wonder Woman, when she went, I forgot where she was, but it was in a Justice League issue, she ended up meeting this little girl who was eating ice cream. And so the ice cream man ended up giving Wonder Woman ice cream. And then when she had it, she thought it was the most delicious thing in the world. So she wanted to share it with all the people. And she was like, "You, sir, are an excellent chef. This should be shared around the world." And that's a running joke that's been around like now in all other forms of media. There's a show called DC Superhero Girls. And that show, Wonder Woman was obsessed with ice cream. In the Wonder Woman movie, the 2017 movie, she ended up having ice cream for the first time. And she was just she was so innocent in that movie. And she was like, "Wow, this is so amazing." And so she just wanted to share with everybody, just like the deliciousness, the amazing taste of ice cream. And so now, whenever I think about stuff like that, like ice cream and stuff, I think about Wonder Woman and how she just felt the amazing, like the power of ice cream. Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but it is similar to Wonder Woman and ice cream.
It was like the same way. She was like happy, but she couldn't obviously express that because the people saw her as such like a stern figure. So it was definitely like she had to be calm about it. Like she was very much, "Yes, I'll buy this much, hand it out." And I was like, "Dang, mommy." And so it's just really cute. And when she eventually became a playable character, it was like a really big thing that like in her voice lines that you could check, because for each character you can go check their voice lines, like how they feel about certain things and the other. Yeah, so you can tell like which ones are like quote unquote the robot versus which ones are like her. And she like on her favorite food voice line, it like she gets so excited and bubbly about the idea of having sweets.
It's fun.
And it is just
sweets bring people together.
Exactly. Anyway, so from there, you get another patch about like your sibling. Like you get the break before we jump into the next country, because right now, like obviously we're in islands, but this brings us back to the mainland. Sumeru, which is the next country of Dendro, it's connected to Liwa, but there's like an area in between that's like a transitional area that kind of connects the countries. It's called the chasm. And so it's like a hole in the ground that is like full of abyssal, like black oozing goo that's like taken over the mines and like is poisoning the area. And it has like a whole story quest, which lo and behold, you find out the truth about the Hilichurls, which are those enemies that you see everywhere in Genshin. Like they're like the most basic level enemy. It's like kind of very stereotyped, honestly, in my opinion, but they're meant to be like this very primitive looking people, and they have masks on that don't show their face, so you never see their face, and there are like different kinds of them. So there's your standard Hilichurl, which is just like your standard soldier. Sometimes they'll have
those
shield,
annoying things that always like be on top of the things and they be shooting bows at me. Yeah, the towers, and I'm just like, get out of my face.
Yes.
Every time I see them, I go and attack them just to annoy them, because sometimes they just be there by the campfire, and I'm like, I don't like you, and I go after them. Those people. You
end up finding some very saddening information by going through this area. Again, you're joined by Dainsleif, and you find out that the Hilichurls are actually the people of Conria, like the people who were cursed. So they were turned into monsters, and they lose all memory of being human. Yes. And so when it's time for them to die, if they're not killed by a passing adventurer, they basically crawl into the chasm to just hide in the darkness and pass away. Yep. And so your sibling is there because there's this machine, like a mechanism, that they believe can turn the Hilichurls back into humans. However, Dainsleif said that the machine doesn't work, 1, and 2, it will actually harm them rather than helping them. Because it releases like these radio waves that you think, like, your sibling thinks it's going to turn them back into humans. It's going to give them their sentience back at least. But in reality, it does the opposite. It's a device that will kill them, basically. So you end up having to stop your sibling, and that's the first time, I think, if I remember correctly, that you guys, like, see each other in passing. And they make a comment about how you as the traveler don't understand, like, what's happening, and turn on the machine and then just leave. And of course, like, the hilichurls in the area are all screaming. Dainsleif is, like, made incapacitated. Like, he's just literally crouching in pain. Because, like, it's, like, affecting everyone. There's no true explanation of why it's doing it. It's just, like, killing them. And throughout this whole journey, you've also been combating what are called Serpent Knights. And the Serpent Knights were part of Dainsleif's guard. Like, they were knights of Khaenri'ah. And so their punishment was they basically guard the hilichurls as they pass away. So, like, they're protecting them in their final moments as, like, their last memory of being knights of Khaenri'ah. So the leader of the evil knights, as they are now, ends up stepping up, and in his last will, uses his body to destroy the machine. Like, he hops on top of the pillar and, like, crushes it with his body. And so it's, like, very heartbreaking moment of, like, even though this knight isn't sentient anymore, he is still protecting his people. You find out that he was actually a friend of Dainsleif, and the theory is that they were actually boyfriends. So it was Dainsleif's lover.
There are a lot of lover theories.
Yes, because obviously China cannot just come out right and say that somebody's gay. But
that's the reason, yeah.
No. It's definitely the fangirls being hyped about it, but there's no romance in this game, so you have to make it up yourself, okay?
Yeah, you get annoyed when I say my character needs to romance somebody. Right. Yeah, I get you.
Well,
I got you.
Like I said, if you've learned anything from me giving this really long explanation over this last, like, hour or two, it's that the traveler is going through so much right now. Like, they're going across the country.
All these other people going through so much, but they get to have romance?
Yeah, because by the time you finish their arc, they deserve a break. The traveler does not get the break until they reach the end, my guy.
So we got to live, like, thousands of years like them?
No.
To finally?
It's not going to be thousands of years. I think all this happens relatively in, like, the span of what is your standard human life cycle.
No, I feel like at some point they're gonna do some time travel shenanigans type of thing, and then all of a sudden we're like cryo freeze and frozen.
Okay, this is not going to be some Captain America stuff. Okay, I promise. But there is. Let me get there. There is some time messery because
shenanigans.
Yes, because after, like, of course, going through this whole quest and your sibling admitting that they're trying to make the amends of Khaenri'ah, you realize that the stuff with Khaenri'ah happened over 500 years ago. And you realize that your sibling, you just woke up on that beach not that long ago. But for your sibling to have so much invested in Khaenri'ah, which happened 500 years ago, sounds a little sus, huh?
I knew it.
So we don't have any confirmation on that yet, to my knowledge. But then again, I have not played the most recent updates just because I heard it's really sad. So I'm, like, procrastinating.
That's good. I mean, not never mind. Let me shut up. Go ahead.
But after this patch with your sibling, you get that, like, unlocked area between what is the cat, like, Liyue and Sumeru. You get obviously 2 Sumeru through the chasm. And that is the country of Dendro, which is grass types. It is the country of wisdom. However, when you get there, you find out that there is a political struggle of sorts because there was a god, the last god had recently died within the last so many years, and the Greater Lord Ruka Devado was her name. It was this beautiful, like, very all-knowing woman. Like, she was the goddess of wisdom, and she really cared about her people. She was very involved.
So my question about this, I'm hearing all these gods or whatever. So the gods in this game are not eternal, right?
So technically, to my knowledge, gods will last until they are either, like, killed or until they, what I presume is, like, they give up their power and become close to mortals.
Okay, so
but other than that, they're just, like, they are, like, I wouldn't say eternal because they're not, like, I guess eternal would make sense because it's not saying, like, they're invincible. Like, they're not immortal. Like, they can be killed. Like, they can be fought. They could die. But they can continue going through life young and, like, living through.
So how do they go about that? Is it like a monarchy? Like, does their power go to someone else after they die?
So that's what it's not fully explained until we actually do get to Sumeru. The process of, like, how one god comes after another. For some, like in the case of this Dendro situation, when Greater Lord Rukkhadevata died, a new Dendro Archon was found. So they appear. A being of great power is selected, I guess, Celestia, to continue on the job of the god. So they become the new god. So to my knowledge, I'd presume that gods are naturally these, before they're titled gods. They're a race of beings of great power who are just live eternally. They have really long lifespans, they have above average powers, and then one day when their time comes, in a sense, by fate or by the will of Celestia, they are selected to come forth and fill their responsibility.
And Celestia is,
it's the heavens. It's the unknown, the boss of all the gods is the nicest way to describe it.
Okay, the god of the gods.
Yes, kind of situation. And it's believed that first being that stopped you and your sibling is part of them. The heavenly principle is also how they're described as you have to follow the rules kind of people. Like I said, in this case, they're found. I think in other cases, there'll be if a god is going to pass on, they'll take on a student who is of their same race or of who has the qualities to become the next god, and they'll teach them. Because I'll get on as I talk more about Sumeru. There is a story as to how Greater Lord Rukkhadevata became god by being a disciple of another god. Lord Rukkhadevata passed away, and a new god was found, Lesser Lord Kusanali. But nobody believed in the Lesser Lord Kusanali. They basically were upset that their goddess died, and so they locked her up in a room and just never let the public see her. And so everybody was convinced that she was just an uncaring god, didn't care about the people, and she was just a scared child. In order to take her place to still govern the people, the academy became the governing body. It's since the whole country is focused around wisdom, the academy that was started by the Dendro Archon, which was the center of learning to teach all her people about everything and keep them full of wisdom, took on a parliamentary system kind of power. And so it was governed by the school, but it was starting to look as the Traveler arrived that the academy was doing some shady practices that was kind of brainwashing the people. On your journey there, you end up meeting people that actually support the new Dendro Archon. That are she's a kind person, they've met her by chance, and that they think that she's been actually doing jobs in secret as the god, but nobody's giving her credit for it. Her saving people, her taking care of certain things that are neglected by the academy. And so they're we should hold a festival that was originally held to celebrate the birthday of Greater Lord Rukkhadevata, but now, since the new Archon is Kusanali, we should do it to celebrate her birthday. And you end up going on this whole trip to have this day. However, upon the day arriving, you start getting deja vu. The day. And at the end of the day, you go through the whole festival with your friends, and when you go to sleep,
the same day?
Yes. The day you realize is repeating itself. And upon investigation, as you go through the day over and over again, you end up realizing that the academy is using the knowledge system that they created that all the people use. It's called Nakasha. It's an earpiece. It connects everyone to the mass pool of knowledge that the country has gained. They're using it to experiment on the people.
For what?
Mind control.
So it's not actually the same day?
No.
So
it's almost
okay.
Basically, what it did was it took a pocket, it made a bubble around the main city, and the day was just going over and over again. And the only reason you found out was because the real Dendro Archon stepped in to help you find your way out of it. And of course, after the day finally ends, everyone acts like nothing happened. But your benefactor who helped you set up this festival and everything, she has an illness. And so the whole time the day kept repeating, her illness got worse and worse every day. It's called Elazar. So it basically turns your body slowly into stone. It's an illness that was brought about to the country for them tapping into what is called forbidden knowledge, versus what people know. It's when humans try and tamper with heavenly knowledge. It makes them go crazy because the heavens don't want
the forbidden fruit.
Yeah,
on the tree of knowledge type of thing.
So long story short, as you try and confront people about it, you find out there's a conspiracy against Lesser Lord Kusanali. That they're purposely keeping her out of the loop and making her look bad because they don't want her to have power. And also because they think she's an unfit god they're trying to make a new god.
Is it a robot?
So it is. So would you like to take a guess whose gnosis they took in order to make this new god?
What's their name?
The Raiden Shogun.
Yes.
You find out that the Balladeer, the harbinger that took the gnosis of the Raiden A.
Yeah.
Blanked out. You find out that the reason he took the gnosis is because he was actually supposed to be the first robot puppet for the god to possess.
What?
Yes, so you found out he was the prototype robot for the Raiden Shogun, and that she cast him aside because he was too human. She put him in storage for
In
to keep him
storage?
safe.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, he had his own room, and they describe it as storage, but I imagine he had his own bedroom and
So
was
it's like
just
a
kept
Pokeball.
deactivated. Yeah. And basically his own little area that he just stayed in. But he wasn't sentient. Like, he wasn't awakened.
Okay.
But somebody stole his body when the palace was raided, and when he woken, he was told that she threw him away.
Oh, cool.
So he felt that he deserved to become a god because it wasn't fair. He was supposed to be a god. So the only way he could continue living was if he fulfilled his purpose to become a god.
Cool.
And so he was letting the Academy experiment on him to make him a godly form that they would use the gnosis and just move forward. So after you find out all this information, though, you become like a wanted criminal in that country.
Because I know stuff that I shouldn't know?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
They lock up the Dendro god, like,
Yeah.
Lesser Lord Kusanali. They lock her up,
Yeah.
and then you like run off to the desert, which is the second half of Sumeru. Because there's the forest, which is like green, where she's from, and then
Yeah.
there's the desert. And so this also stems into that talk of we were talking about the cycle.
Yes.
So you know how you asked me where gods come from, kind of
Mm-hmm.
situation? So there was an overall god of Sumeru originally, before like the whole 7 came together. Her name was the goddess of flowers. And in her time,
Simple.
all of Sumeru was like green, gorgeous, beautiful, and even the desert had like oases, and it was this lively place. But of course, when fighting off evil, she was injured and passed away.
Oh.
And when that happened, her 2 disciples took on ownership of her land. There was Greater Lord Rukkhadevata, who took on like the grass, because she was I think it was goddess of the woods is what she was referred to as. Might be wrong. That was like, I think, the original fan theory.
Yeah.
Was that like it was the goddess of the forest. And then there was the king of Deshret, or the king of the desert. And he's also referred to as the Scarlet King. And so they were best friends, and they ruled over Sumeru together. So his lands of the desert, at this point, since his passing, had become like this very desolate, just lifeless place. Cursed by forbidden knowledge. And so you go to hide off in the desert with your gang of like friends that you've made in Sumeru, who are like against the conspiracy of like Dendra Archon being bad. They all believe in her. You think she's a great person. And so while in the desert, you make plans to like find proof that she is a worthy god, and then you want to go back and like usurp the Academy, like get rid of them. You're gonna prove that they're all a bunch of evil people.
Throw them out.
While
Kick
in
them
the
to the
desert,
curb.
like gathering information and making a plan, you end up finding out that the King of Deshret is what brought upon Elazar, like the illness that's like killing all these people. It's like a poison from forbidden knowledge that he tapped into. Because when he tried to become a stronger god for his people to gain more knowledge, he touched something he shouldn't have.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And in exchange for his life and the help of Greater Lord Rukkhadevata, they ended up like closing off the forbidden knowledge and stopping it.
That's why your parents tell you not to touch stuff when you go in the store. Because if you touch something, it can be something with forbidden knowledge. You're about to get destroyed. And then you have to go through all this mess. When you could have just not touched that piece of gum that your mama said don't touch, you would have been okay.
Right? You eat that one piece of candy off the ground, and then you sick for weeks.
Yes, in the world, all of a sudden, everything's thrown out of order. People are dying left and right. It's all because you couldn't keep your hand off a piece of gum. It's ridiculous.
Yes. So he dies, and you find out that Greater Lord Rukkhadevata didn't die like people thought she did. You find out that it actually just took all of her power to close off the divine knowledge. and that when she lost all her power, she took the form of a child, kind of like Lesser Lord Kusanali.
See, there's too many gods not actually dying, pretending to die.
She didn't know. So you find out that the truth is, when everyone thought that the original first god died, she didn't. She just lost her power and became small, in a sense. So the whole time, they've still had their first original god. She just doesn't have any of her memories or her power like she used to.
How long has she been a child?
She's been technically takes the form. She's like in the form of a child because she was in a sense, like she gave it up. She gave up all her power to seal the doorway of the forbidden knowledge.
Yeah.
And so
what I mean is, how long has she been in that form for something not to click?
It's been a long time. The metaphor that's used is it's like the rings of a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just because you cut down the tree doesn't take away the history of the tree, but it starts from the ground up.
Yeah.
And then a new plant can sprout in its place. So that's kind of what Hida is. The tree was cut down, but from that center of the rings, a new sprout has formed that will grow forth and produce another tree.
It's like Sailor Moon. When Hotaru, think about it, Sailor Saturn, she ended up using her powers of destruction, almost destroying the earth or whatever. She ended up being reborn.
Similar, except imagine it like a plant. Like, she just became a seed again.
Yeah.
And now she's a sprout.
Yep. And you know what? Seeds were a big part of that season. I'm just saying seeds were a big part of Sailor Moon S, a big part of Sailor Moon Eternal. I'm not going to say Super S because Super S was a whole thing. But Sailor Moon Eternal, and then Hotaru came back. It's all coming together. Sailor Moon and Genshin Impact are in the same universe.
Joke's on us. The main character from Genshin Impact is secretly Sailor Moon, just in another universe.
Yes. See? It's all like, no, they're the offspring of Sailor Moon, right? Because this is taking place in the 30th century. Or is it the 30th century? Think about it. In Sailor Moon, the 30th century is when Sailor Moon is Neo Queen Serenity ruling Earth, or whatever they call it. I can't think. See, I'm going all over the place. But so basically, this is what happens in Sailor Moon. Usagi finds out that she's Sailor Moon, and then in the future, when Chibiusa comes back to the past, she finds out that she's Neo Queen Serenity in the 30th century. Neo Queen Serenity rules over Crystal Tokyo, right? So all of these countries are right outside of Crystal Tokyo. These are Sailor Moon's cousins, and they're being reborn over here in like Mondstadt or whatever. And this is just a whole thing going over again. She's just ignoring it because she's like, I'm not dealing with that anymore. It's a thing.
I'm sure if you made a fan theory video, this would be the first ever fan theory about it.
I will make.
It would be beautiful.
Yeah,
it'll flourish.
It will be a great. I should make a fan theory video of how Genshin Impact and Sailor Moon are in the same universe, and it's just time repeating itself.
Of course.
Yes.
Perfect.
Kaiser. A time of peace. Yes, it's great. We have to find out how it has to do with the moon. What the moon has to do with all of this, but it will make sense.
Well, there's a theory in Genshin that the skies, like in the stars in the sky, are fake.
Right. See, it's making sense. She had to trap everybody over on that side of the world for some reason because it was doing something to her kingdom. So we have to figure out what that is, why Sailor Moon had to do that, and what everybody else has to do about it. Will Chibiusa discover that her mom is actually a villain? Were the Sailor Guardians this whole time protecting an evil witch? I mean, it's starting to all come together. Did she do it because she loved the people? Or did she do it because she wanted more power?
I can just imagine it now. Fan art of Genshin Impact characters as Sailor Scouts.
They need to do that. We need a crossover for like when these 2 new Sailor Moon movies come out in July or whatever.
Yes, the stars in the sky are the siblings from Tavon.
That's when I would actually buy something from Genshin Impact. If I can get a Sailor Venus and Genshin Impact, we're good. We're great.
They put Aloy in it, so I don't get why they couldn't have a Sailor Moon collab and put Sailor Moon.
Right. Sailor Moon had a lot of collabs with all these different games on like iPhone and stuff. Do it with Genshin Impact. It'll be great. I would literally spend my money if I can get Sailor Venus in my game. I love Sailor Venus.
God, that would be so funny. I don't know what. Well, I guess they could be a catalyst user, like a magic user, technically. Or we could make it work.
Yeah.
We could pitch this. We could go to China and get in front of that board of directors and be like, y'all, this plan, solid.
Yeah, it would be. I would want my Sailor Venus, my Venus Love Me chain to like wrap over the enemy so I can throw them around. Use my sword. What's the sword she called? I'm trying to think. Wink chain sword. Use that. I can use my Venus. I'm trying to name all those Sailor Venus attacks. Rolling heart vibration. That'll be a good one. Just like a heart coming at the enemy, spinning them all around. I'm a Sailor Moon nerd, so.
There is a character, her name is Kuki Shinobu. Her sword does turn into like that like spins around and does damage, and upon doing damage to herself, she heals like, the rest of the party.
Yes. I can use my crescent beam. Oh, because I made this joke on Twitter the other day, where Sailor Moon is always just spinning. She's just spinning whenever she does her attacks, right? I'm like, how come this girl can do all this spinning, all this jumping around, but when it comes to walking, she can't even stand on her own 2 feet? That's what I need to figure out. What is it about you holding this wand that gives you all this majestic ability to just start spinning, throwing hearts at people? But even when you are at Sailor Moon, you still can't run without tripping over like a banana peel. I need to figure that out.
I feel, man.
I feel like
Feel it on a spiritual
the
level.
power comes to her. And once she starts like, oh, it's time to actually take out the enemy, that's when she feels like she needs to like show off.
It's likely.
I'm just saying, she's clumsy, but she can spin. She can spin like an ice skater. Make it make sense, Usagi. I'm just get back to the story because I feel like there's something there with her. She likes power and she likes to be the main character. That's why. That's why in the original anime, she's the one who ends up taking down most of the enemies all the time. Her friends do that just to make her feel like she actually can do something. That's why like they all die and stuff for her because they know they're coming back. They know they're coming back. They need to make her feel like she's useful.
Oh gosh.
That's why their
Character development. That's too much.
that's why their attacks like always usually miss or something in the 90s anime. Oh, they used to get on my nerves. You know what? This isn't a Sailor Moon podcast. This is a Genshin Impact.
We talked a lot about Pokemon and Sailor Moon. I'm pretty sure that at this point, are we sure it's a Genshin podcast?
But we'll do this at the end. Let's get back to Genshin.
Okay.
Let's get back to Genshin.
Yes. So to finish up the plot, I guess relatively quickly, you go back to the country to tell everyone that, oh my gosh, she's the real god. You guys have been lied to, and you purposely get like kidnapped by the academy to like sneak your way out, basically. So like to infiltrate enemy lines. And you make your way down to the underground where they're making the fake god, like the new god. And of course, by the time you get there, everything is set up and you manage to free. Her name is Nahida, like that's her like worldly name, not her god name. So Lesor Kusanali name is Nahida. And so Nahida joins you to the bottom floor where the new god is. And you basically have to fight him. And of course, like you lose again, and you find out that Nahida uses the time loop ability that was used by the Academy on that day at the festival to see all the possible outcomes of the fight with this new god. And so
being prepared, I like
fighting. Yeah, you end up fighting him and defeating him, but it's kind of like a sad moment because, of course, like his name is Scaramouche at the time, and he just has gone through so much stuff just to become this god because he just wants to prove that he is worthy of the power that was originally promised to him. Like, he just wants to prove that he is worth it. And of course he loses, but Nahida says that she wants to save him instead. Because obviously she's being compassionate. And in this moment, like, you have the option to go into what is Irminsul. Like, she takes you to the Tree of Life, which connects all knowledge and all things in the country. That is like the treasure of... Actually... No, wait. I'm a liar.
Truly.
I'm a liar.
I believe you.
If I remember correctly, because so a lot happens. This whole action scene cut.
Yeah.
And you do the whole battle, you fight, you win. And for whatever reason, you go into Irminsul. That is how it happens. You go and to enter the tree, in a sense, to solve the quest. While you're gone, another member from the Fatui, like the group, shows up. His name is the Doctor.
The Doctor.
The Doctor.
The Doctor.
And so she makes... Nahida and him are talking because right now she has 2 Gnosises. She has hers and then the one from the fake god.
Yeah.
So he is like this very powerful scientist who like is hinted at having all these different versions of himself. Well, you don't know how, you don't know why. It's just hinted at as like part of, like the backstory and like the research you have to do to get into the academy. He's the one who was behind the making of the new god. He's like the brains behind the operation. She says that in exchange for him destroying all his other copies of himself up until now, that she'll give him the gnosis for the new god. And so, of course, the gnosis, which is like the whole point of his organization, he says, okay, I'll make that sacrifice. And so, of course, you hear like the voices in his head of like all these different versions of himself, and then they all go silent. And then she goes to leave him, and he says, no, like, what can I tell you in exchange for your gnosis? And she says, there's nothing, like, you have nothing I want. I'm the god of wisdom. I know wisdom. And I know that what you're trying to do right now is a trick. And he says, but have you ever heard of the rumors that the skies of Tevat are fake?
Oh my gosh.
And so he basically tempts her with unknown knowledge, which we know from this whole like plot of this thing, that is the curse of someone who seeks wisdom. It is the idea of a forbidden
She should
knowledge.
know that.
So the scene ends there, and it transfers to the traveler, who is now inside like this area looking at the tree of Irminsul. And this whole time you're in Sumeru, like the goal was to heal the tree in order to save the people and get rid of the disease of Elazar. That was like what you found in the desert. You found out how to, like, in a sense, contact the tree and what you needed to do in order to save everyone in the country from like the new god and whatnot. And so you go there and you get to the tree, and that's when you meet Greater Lord Rukkhadevata. And guess what? It's Nahida. It's her. It's like that's when it's confirmed 100% that Nahida is Greater Lord.
Who's Nahida again?
They are the same person. She's the new Dendro Archon.
Yeah.
That's Lesser Lord Kusanali. So she appears in that form, like the young child form, and she says that's when she gives the whole explanation of how when she passed away, like she basically created her new seed, her new form as Nahida. And she says that when the forbidden knowledge got into the tree of life, like Irminsul, she concentrated all of its evilness into a branch of the tree, which is her branch, her life force. And so she asks that the traveler and Nahida snap her branch off of the tree to get rid of all the illness, but at the end of the day, it would erase all memory of Greater Lord Rukkhadevata and all her accomplishments. So, of course, like at this point, Nahida comes and joins the crew, and she sees herself as like Greater Lord Rukkhadevata and finds out that they are one person, and that the whole time she had been comparing herself to herself.
Wow.
So she had all these insecurities about being a good god, when in reality she was.
She was, wow, okay.
So, of course, Nahida makes the choice to snap the branch. And as she does, like she's holding herself, like Greater Lord Rukkhadevata is hugging her, thanking her for her existence and that she knows she will be a great god. And like your reward for like completing the mission, like you get these little like memorabilia items like for each quest, and you are given the branch as like your memorabilia item. And when you go back to like real world, everyone has forgotten who Greater Lord Rukkhadevata was, and so all the accomplishments went to the current Archon, Lesser Lord Kusanali, aka Nahida.
So it just went back to her she just changed names, basically.
Yes. So it basically, they became one since. And from there, the story obviously is at a pause. Like, it's up to Nahida to like basically purge the academy, get rid of all the bad people, get rid of all the Fatui members hiding in it, and start fresh. And then as like the traveler in the next following like updates, the desert opens up more, and it's up to you to find out like the hidden truths of the desert. And we're kind of reaching a point where it's you're insinuating the move on to the next country, which we haven't seen yet. We're in a very transitional period where we don't necessarily have a major like Archon quest, like anything dealing with the gods, but for like sake of no spoilers, and like I personally haven't finished all the content, so I don't want to talk about it if I don't know a lot about it. But then there is a new quest with your sibling where you find out more about Conria. Like I said in the beginning earlier, I referenced that I haven't played it yet because it's allegedly really sad. Like really sad. So I'm kind of putting it off because I'm like, I'm good. So I'm like procrastinating it, and I've just been exploring the areas that have been opening with the desert. And then yeah, it's looking pretty cool, especially within the next couple, actually I say next couple, in like a couple months, we're looking to get our 5th country, I believe, and it's called Fontaine, which is the country of Hydro. Their motif is justice. So it's based off of like France and that very much romanticized like European Renaissance kind of style. There's the possibility of like we're going to be getting a new kind of weapon because Genshin has a very set weapon system of like you either get a sword, a claymore, a bow, a pole armor, a catalyst. There's like 5 weapons.
So there might be a
5 set
6
weapons.
type.
So yeah, recently they've been pushing the boundaries of where it's like it's technically a weapon. Like let's say so there's a character, he's a catalyst, so magic user, but they tweaked the mechanics to where he's a brawler, which means rather than every other catalyst where it's like you throw your hand out and it shoots a power of energy, he throws punches that are embedded with energy. My theory is that they're gonna bring guns. And yes, because like it's meant to be France. So what's to say we're not gonna get some kind of Buccaneer kind of style like gunslinger? And so I think it's gonna be probably bouncing off of the archer mechanic of like how bows are shot, except it's gonna be guns.
Cool.
Because Fontaine is also known as like the country of inventors. Like a lot of the inventors you see thus far in the game are from Fontaine.
Wow. There's a lot to Genshin Impact in general. You tell me all this stuff. I'm already gonna go back and listen to it because I have to edit all this. But I just find it hilarious that it's a lot.
No, it's definitely. I'm gonna be honest. My throat's a little dry. I should have brought a bottle of water.
You need to get something to drink. But
yeah,
we were talking about the desert, right? And I don't want to get too much into that since that's very current. It's newer, I guess. But
not completely, but yeah, newer.
But we were talking about earlier about how they treat like characters of color, we should say.
Oh, yeah, it's upsetting. So that was like we mentioned earlier, I didn't get to do it then. But now that we've talked about it, so Sumeru is broken up, like I said, into like the forest and the desert. So like I understand, I didn't get to say it, but Sumeru is definitely based off of like what is, in my opinion, like what northern Africa is.
Okay.
It's very much like inspired by more arid desert based areas. So the excitement of like the release of this country was that we were gonna get finally melanin. And these kinds of games and general like from Asia tend to be a little weak in that aspect.
Not just
like,
games,
tend to not have a lot of
content in general, media as a whole.
Yes. And like also just in anime as well, there's like been a known like history of like stereotypes, and honestly it's like definitely
you can look almost anywhere and find it in anime, video games. Pick any anime from at all time, honestly, including today, and you'll see things of cultures being appropriated. And
it's really upsetting. And like the idea with Genshin was that so body, like not to separate from the whole topic, but so the biggest thing that has always been like since the beginning a question in Genshin was body types, race representation, and culture representation. And so the cultures were honestly handled, I'm not saying they're like the best, it's not like 100% accurate, but they were done, like they incorporate good aspects, and like especially with like updates that happen like for events, like so limited time events that are in each country, they handle it very respectfully, and that they include actual aspects of the cultures that they are like based off of. Like how Liwa has Lantern Rite, which is very similar to what is like a Chinese New Year or like a festival of that nature in that country. So like I had high hopes because like obviously it's China, and so far we've been to very, very, I say like the first country is very white. It's like Germany. Not that there are not African American people or other nationalities or races in Germany, but culturally they are known to be just white people. Like Europeans, white people. Not all of them, but you know what I mean. Then obviously you reach China, which there are definitely various skin tones within China. So I had a little hope. We got a little bit of a fairer complexion. Like we reached tan. If anything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I say tan, like you're peach, if you will. And so my hope was that, maybe when we hit Inazuma again, it was same thing. It was like definitely very light for my taste. But I was like, you know what? It's Japan. I've never been to Japan. I don't know what their demographic is like. It's not my place. But I was like, we started to get more body types. So we got a muscular body type. It wasn't implemented in playable characters, but we were starting to see like thicker models, muscular models. And so I was like, oh my gosh, just give me skin tones, please, please. And then we hit Sumeru, and I was utterly disappointed. I was like, the forest, I understand maybe us not having as much representation. They could fudge it, but the desert, I was fucking mortified. Sorry, I was mortified. I was disappointed. Like, they have enemies called Eremites, and they're meant to be like very much taking inspiration from like looters and like caravan type characters that like mug people, and they're quote unquote like the nicest. They are the darkest that Genshin has ever gone, and it's not even actual, in my opinion. It's not nowhere near what it needs to be for people who live in the desert. Like, this was the perfect opportunity to incorporate like African skin tones, like to incorporate that group of peoples, and it was like I was so disappointed. And then I was disappointed originally when Nahida herself was not African. Like, I had like great high hopes that I was like, oh my gosh, she's gonna be like the peak of like this country. It would be like the perfect opportunity, like African goddess, like we're going full send. No, a little white girl.
Yeah.
Literally a child. And then we hit the desert, and there's a character, I don't know if you saw her in the intro or anything, or like from events. Her name is, I might be pronouncing this wrong, but it's pronounced in the game Candace, but I think it's meant to be pronounced Kandake. I'm not 100% sure, but it is modeled after a literal African princess. And like her character design is very much modeled after, I believe, more so Egyptian like kind of style. And so I was so excited, and then she's literally tan.
Yeah.
Like not even like dark. She is tan. And the actual princess herself was like beautiful, rich, dark complexion. And I was just kind of like, so we're going to make her after a princess, but we're not going to make her look like a princess, but you want to make her the princess of the desert?
And that's usually what I mean by cultural appropriation in general. With these type of games, they can take the culture and they can respect the culture in quotations, but then you will take the characters or the people that they're from, and then you would whitewash them, make them look like everyone else that you portray and identify. And if you do take them and you give them a little bit of a darker complexion, it's not by much. If you put them by one character who was of lighter skin tone, they will be a maximum 2 shades darker.
Really is, like, if we're talking about a color, like a scale, like a value scale in a sense, and 10
artists
is like
are talking
our,
now.
Like, darkest dark black.
Artists are talking now.
If 10 is like black and 1 is white, they probably hit like a 4. That's pushing it, because there is one, and keep in mind, this is a villain. Like, technically, it's an enemy. He is one of the desert Eremites leaders, because there are grunts, which are like your base level like wimps, and then there are like the more like boss like ones that are a little harder. They have stronger abilities, and he's literally like really muscular, really like big, and he's like mostly wrapped up in gauze. And I think he's like at least in my opinion, from what I've seen playing the game, he is the darkest character.
And that's my other problem with that, right? So your darkest character is the villain.
So, and like I'm not gonna say they saved it, but like, so first he was like meant to be a character that was like morally ambiguous, like he was part of a desert tribe. Oh, sorry, I'm spoiling.
It's okay.
But and so he like there was like he had like opportunity to be like more ambiguous, but then at the end they just made him a traitor, and I was like, oh, okay, so they're traitors now, huh? And it was just really disappointing. Like, I was really upset, and like the leader of the tribe is white. Like, literally, like, she has pale, not that her hair color matters, because there's this really, the models are beautiful is the thing. They're, like, gorgeously designed, but why are these people in the desert and they don't even have a dark complexion? Like, how are these characters, like, realism, because Genshin is really good about their, like, their environments, their design, them trying to keep culture. Why are you missing this mark? And so, the craziest part too is that, like I said, we've already hit 4 of the 7 countries. We are over halfway through the whole country, and one of the 2 countries that had like greatest opportunity for like darker complexions is gone. In a sense, like Sumeru, we've almost completed Sumeru. We have like maybe 2 more months to get the rest of the like technical full content of the country. Like, probably be patches where they'll increase it somehow by going underground or aerially, like through the sky. But realistically, Sumeru's almost done with. That means we have 1 more country, like culturally, like traditionally, that would have darker complexions, and that leaving all the melanin for 1 country. Like, kind of representation is that? Like, kind of bullshit.
It honestly, it should be throughout all the countries, because people of darker complexions not just Black people, but people in general are everywhere. Black people are actually, yes, we are everywhere. So
Yeah, you are. Well, and that's the thing about Tavat too. It is literally the goal, the point of the country is that all these people are constantly, as you in a sense save each nation, it is to encourage like interactions
Yes.
between each country, people traveling and moving, and also like, I don't know, like I said, the remaining countries are honestly modeled after France, one is modeled after Russia, and then the other one is modeled after, supposedly, allegedly, after more South American, it meant to be more like Native American, like Aztec based origins.
I can already tell you they're not gonna.
I'm gonna be so upset. Like, my dreams are gonna be crushed. And I get it. They don't care. They're a corporation. It's China. Let's be like, the reality is all peoples have the capacity to be racist. Like, we live in America. It is like the king of inequality, in my opinion. Like, they have so much bad history, and even today they claim racism's over. It is not fucking over. Like, Mississippi literally brought back Jim Crow laws. So, like, where the fuck are you, China? Sorry, where are you? Like,
I'm about to put bleeps everywhere.
It's crazy.
Just
no,
I'm just gonna let them. I'm gonna let them know that you.
I get so heated on the matter. Like, Hannah and I, especially like when Candace came out, because Hannah was so excited for her. Like, beautiful outfit, like she was like to be a shield user, like gorgeous, like traditional shield, an ancient people. It was like the hype, and there was so much fan art out. And then she released, and it was like, oh my gosh, y'all, she's like not even, and it's upsetting socially because like when you have a platform like these game developers, because this game like became
it's a worldwide
so so fast.
phenomenon, truly.
Exactly. So you think that they would feel more like social responsibility
to
provide representation.
That's what you would think.
And
it's and you see that everywhere. I think about corporations that do that a lot. And I think that coming from the East in more like Asian territories is like Pokemon that is starting to do.
I was about to say, like, I think it's Nintendo as a whole.
They're starting to.
Because I think Nintendo is
they do own Pokemon is the biggest company in the world.
In recent years, yeah.
They're the biggest company in the world, and they're finally starting to, because let me tell you a story. I used to think Brock was black. Like Brock from Pokemon, there's a whole nother problematic situation for me. But as a child, innocent little Kaiser, that was the first time, although he's not black, that was the first time I did see a black anime character on screen. And seeing as how these companies still can't get to a point where they can portray these races in an accurate fashion, and how it took Pokemon, every now and then they will have a black character, but it took them a while for them to actually truly feature these characters in starring roles. They're doing an okay job now. If you see characters like Nessa, and there's some names I can't remember. I can only remember Nessa. That's the only name I can remember because hers, I feel like it's probably like, she's a standout character. But I remember when they revealed her character and people were doing art online, posting it on Twitter, and a lot of people would like lighten her skin tone, some not on purpose, many others on purpose. And when they were called out about it, is your art, do whatever you want, I guess, right? I can't tell you whether you should make a character darker or not, unless, well, I can, but I can't control you, right? And it got to the point where people were starting to lighten her more on purpose or making her into a monkey. Yeah, you never seen that? Like, people would create art of Nessa as if she was a monkey, as a way to you can search it up, as a way to battle that. And what's the point? We want our cultures to be represented, but then when we try to get them to create representation, you go and try to, not necessarily the people that are making the game, but more so fans or whatever, are trying to silence those voices, and then you do it in a way that is overly negative and racist, 100% racist. You can't turn a black character into a monkey and expect people not to assume that it's racist, because it is racist. Do you know the connotations between how black people were portrayed, especially in the past? You look at anime in the past, I think about how, especially in up till recently how they would portray black characters, and their lips will be just gigantic circular like things, and then there will be a totally different color from the rest of their face. And isn't up till now they just started getting a hold on that. I think about the show Carol on Tuesday. You ever seen Carol on Tuesday? I told you to watch that. You should watch it one day. It's a show about, but one of the main characters, half of the duo is a black character. The other half, she's actually white. She's not Asian. And how they portray black people in that anime, I feel is actually very positive. That's the most black people I've ever seen in the anime up until that point, especially in an anime about music and how black culture in general and music around the world is music, right? Any type of music that you can think of, disco, rock and roll, country, pop, popular music in general was somehow came from black people and then taken and created into something else, mostly by more black people. But then how a lot of these cultures have gotten into those spaces and they don't give the proper credit and appreciation to these black voices that created this type of music, these type of media, the stuff that you taken. I feel from cultures, you should give them flowers, basically, right? You should be able to appreciate people in their culture, right? I feel you can have lighter skinned characters appreciating those cultures, wearing those type of things and teaching people about that. But at the same time, you better have a whole bunch of darker skinned people that you cannot mistake that are black also in those spaces. You can't have spaces that black people take up and then remove them out those spaces and try to keep those.
Yeah, you can't appropriate something different from like taking inspiration and then completely appropriating something. So like Genshin is an amazing game. Like I
really
love
good.
this game. It's one of those things where they take in beta testers like before a game started, like their new game Honkai Star Rail. There was a whole like almost like a cast calling of people that they wanted to bring in to not only test play the game but hear like their opinions on for like when new characters were coming out, when stuff is going in. And I know good and well that like majority of them are probably people like us who are like really avid video game players, like more than likely like nerdy and very serious about their other games as well. But like the idea that like there are these beta testers and there are so many points in which somebody could be like, hey, so like yeah, this character's really amazing, I love their style, and like of course we're like doing such an amazing job at like taking inspiration from this country that they're originally from, but aren't these people like African American? Like aren't these things we're still like in a sense stealing at this point because you're
not
giving
giving
no
any
credit to like
credit.
the original peoples. Like aren't you just kind of like slapping it on a character that fits like what you want it to look like aesthetically versus what like the actual people? Like we're trying to be real here, we're trying to like show that we're serious about this culture, then why are you taking away the people who
It's not even
practice the
aesthetics, because
culture?
they're taking the aesthetics, but they're removing the color. And let me say in the simple terms, they're removing color from the things that gave it life in the first place. The people, the places, the people that you're taking inspiration from are the people that you're removing from those spaces.
Yeah. And yeah, it's definitely like probably one of the biggest drawbacks of the game. If there was ever a patch to come out one day, I would like it to be a color patch, like we could call it. You can call it a display adjustment. Cause like Genshin has this option where you can choose what language you want to play the game in. I believe it's English, they have Chinese, they have Japanese, and I want to say there's one more that I cannot think of off the top of my head, but it's like voice actors for each one. And I don't get why you can't have like a display adjustment where it's like, man, I would like to be realistically the complexions and whatever.
I mean, I need you to just fix it. Honestly, just fix it. I don't need any options for that.
Yeah. What I meant was like I wanted it to be like a patch that like is
over the whole
game, not as in like
I get you. Yeah.
Aside from that rage.
Well, aside from that, we're gonna have to take a break, and then we're gonna come back, listeners, and we're gonna share some why we like Genshin Impact, not just why we.
I was about to say we already talked about why we like it, but like I guess we're gonna talk about the fun of playing it, because
we got to get you into wanting to play the game yourselves. This is what I'm a fan of. She told us the story. She's a fan of all that, but we need to get into the gameplay. So we'll be back in a sec, and we'll have some fun.
Yummy, 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 yummy. That was so good. Now it's just time to get back to my game and...
Take that sucker, and this, and that, and bam what?
Don! You're playing Genshin Impact?
I thought that you said it was stupid.
It is, but I'm good at it.
OMG! You've unlocked so many regions! How'd you get through so fast?
Through my special technique. I call it Gacha.
Cool! I want to learn the Gacha technique! Wait. Gotcha. Gotcha? Don, how exactly did you learn this technique?
Oh, that's easy. I just put in your credit card information and kept pressing the X button until I got the best stuff.
What? How much did you spend? Who are these people?
Did I break something? Maybe I should press X more.
Don, don't you dare press that button. Don.
Are you okay?
My expensive lifestyle, my new clothes, my bank account.
We're back, everyone. Welcome. I hope you took your break. I hope you had fun. I hope you went and started downloading Genshin Impact on your PlayStation 4 or 5 or your iOS device or your Android device and not your Nintendo Switch. And I am taking shots. Nintendo, are you going to put it on Switch or not? I don't have a Switch, but you can go ahead and do it. We're going to talk about the game, I guess. Why we like playing
together, I guess.
That's mainly why I play
stories.
Genshin Impact, is to play with other people. When I'm playing it by myself, it's not as fun to me.
So I don't mind playing alone.
Yeah.
I'm a completionist, so in my own world, I definitely just roam, like completing all the tasks, collecting all the bits and bobs, because there are things in the map that when you collect them, it'll allow you to like level up your like stamina or obtain certain items and areas. But I definitely, the fun parts, like I say, like overall, are definitely playing together as well. It's a different experience, like playing along with other people. Because at that point, you mostly are just like
you just
stuff, like you're fighting.
you take it out. You guys are taking out stuff, and I can.
oh yeah, we are.
I can run around and start fighting,
our usual,
pretending like I'm doing good.
Like so, as we mentioned before, Kaiser and I usually play with our friend Hannah, and the way it works in co-op is that you go into the lowest level person's world. So, like, say I'm level AR is what it's called, your adventure rank. I'm AR 45 and Kaiser, what, you're AR 20 something? Anyway, regardless, because his AR is lower than mine, we go into his world instead of mine. Because if he came into my world, the enemies would be too hard for him to compete against. Like
so let me say this. So your adventure rank is different from your other leveling systems, because you have leveling systems for everything else. You have leveling systems for your characters, for your weapons, and for your world. And so the adventure rank is the leveling system where you go, say you have just a lot of tasks. The more tasks you do, the more enemies to defeat. Just the random stuff that you do around the world levels up your adventure rank, right? You cannot access co-op or multiplayer until you get an adventure rank of 10, I think. Is 16?
I think it's 16.
Wow. Is it? Okay.
16.
I don't know why I thought 10. And then that's when you can get into the co-op. Co-op is the most fun part to me. Multiplayer, I should say, is the most fun part to me. Because I just get to run around and do a whole bunch of random stuff. Sabrina and Hannah can come in and tell me where stuff is. And I can just be like, okay, let's do it. Sabrina's always asking, Kaiser, what do you want to do today? But half the time she asks me that, it's been like a month since I played the game. So I don't remember anything about the game. And I'm just like, take me somewhere. It's true.
Yeah. Because like you are the level you are, usually it's just us picking an area and like we'll go unlock teleport points. But just to say also, because when we first started playing with Kaiser, Hannah and I used like our favorite characters in a sense, because that's usually what you do when you play co-op. Like, you take your favorite characters, you run around together. But Hannah and I were like obliterating everything within seconds. Like we would get there and we like go to fight, and keep in mind, Kaiser gets partial experience whenever we're playing, like in defeating stuff. But I don't know like what percentage you get. Like you get the full experience if we defeat them alone. So the idea is that we ended up having to switch to like lower leveled characters that neither of us play relatively like at all. So I usually DPS. I usually do a lot of like fighting. Like I do most damage. So I decided I was gonna be a support, and so now I'm the healer. I usually play as Jean. She's like a sword healer user and crowd control. And Hannah fluctuates depending on what we need, but she'll usually be like a buffer or like a sub DPS, and we let Kaiser be the main character.
I always say I'm the main character. You guys are my servant. You guys are my servant.
Yeah. Kaiser's like the queen of the castle, like
truly
showing up at the last second, like like
Yes.
diving down from upon high
But
to
that's
do the final
actually true
blow.
because I'm always like somehow like above you guys, like not above you in life, but actually above you like in territory. So I'm just like jumping off of cliffs, coming down just to hit the enemies. There are these like big boss battles, and I'm just like running out the way just to jump on top of them. Like it's fun though.
Yeah. Or like we'll kill enemies and like we'll be waiting by a chest and like Hannah and I are just standing there jumping like motion Kaiser come our way and then he picks a fight with another group of enemies and Hannah and I are like oh gosh no we gotta get over there we gotta save
and I'm
him.
like don't come over here like do something else half the time. But then also you guys always like try to get me to go to some place like oh look over here Kaiser here's a what are those things called the blue blue floaty. Those floaty butterfly things. What are those called? The Sealies.
Oh, Sealy.
You like follow that Sealy, but then I turn around somewhere else. I'm like, oh, look, a chest is over here, and I start running, but I never tell you. I never tell you where I'm going, so I'm just going some random place.
That the Sealies will respawn at their original point. So if you are so far away from it, it'll disappear.
But I have the habit of just going, and then they go somewhere, and I'm bad at directions. So they're like, let's go over here at the map, and not to mention that they play on their like iPhones or whatever. I play on my like PlayStation 5, and so I'm sitting here. I have to go to a whole nother menu just to go to the map, and then start. My TV screen is this big, and I have to search like where are they on where are their markers on the map.
Oh, you and your poor huge TV and your PS5. Man, poor you. I have to play on my phone that gets hot as a like a stovetop whenever I play this game.
Truly first world problems. Main character problems. Main character problems, right?
Yeah. Main character problem. We handle all the hard work and you just come in and get to take all the credit. You get the reward.
Eventually, I'll get a high enough level and I'll come to your world.
I'm telling you, Kaiser, I love you to death. But by the time you get to that level, Hannah and I have a bet because technically she and I are both like max leveled. But the difference is so in Genshin, when you reach a certain level, you have to do an ascension quest. So like I'm at AR45. In order for me to jump to the next level, I have to fight a special like quest. But I refuse to do it. And it's not that I can't do it. I 110% can do it.
Good for you.
It's just that I like being strong. Like in my world, I'm like God. Like I can just kill everything and so easy for me. And I take pride in like, not having to work too hard. But Hannah is like, girl, you should be like as high as a level as I am. And she's AR60, which is the current level cap in the game. So she's like, you should be fighting on par with my world. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. So she and I made a deal that there's a quest in another special area that you have to find books. And if you find the books, it like unlocks the story of this hidden area. And I wanted her to find it because it's connected to her favorite character. So I thought it would be easy. I thought she would just do it. She's not done it. Kaiser, we made this bet like over a year and a half ago, that if she completed the quest, which would take her not even an hour, it's like super easy. Like you just find the books. She could cheat. She could literally cheat. Find it all. And I agreed that I would ascend.
She hasn't done it yet.
This girl hasn't done it yet. I'm just sitting at
It
AR45.
is what it is. See, because I say that, maybe one day I'll get to your level. I don't play the game. I'm not dedicated to the game enough. I go months without touching that, like even loading up that app. How long has it been since we played together? Since like,
oh gosh,
right. And I'm just like, I sit there. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna come back eventually because you guys like I
play daily.
I saw you were on on Discord on the Genshin thing. I'm like,
I know, I was waiting for you to pop in. I saw your name pop up on my active. I was like, oh
no, I was talking to someone else, and then I turned it off.
Damn.
For like a second, I was like, oh, there's Sabrina. I bet she, because I was like, I wonder if she sees my name. But then I just went off, and I was like, I'm not doing this. But no, what's your favorite thing about playing Genshin Impact? Out of all the things that you do, what's like your favorite? Like, what makes you want to come back?
It's probably like I say the grinding, like grinding for material, like exploring, like whenever a new area unlocks, it's like my favorite thing to go like inch by inch of the map and like explore like the whole new area, like defeat monsters and like take in the whole new space. Like of course the quests are like gold in the sense that they're very complex and I enjoy like the twists and turns, but I enjoy like taking my party and going through an area, combing it, and like finding all of the like hidden areas, and each little section of the map has like a completion percentage, and I take great pride in that. Like everything from when I started to get serious about the game to now, like I probably started getting serious around like when Inazuma came out. But I like all of the areas are at least like 90-something% complete, if not 100%. And I'm just like, yes, my completionist brain is like itched. It's like it's got its fix.
Yeah.
But I also enjoy like the events. Like events are definitely like really fun. Like
I
you get
never catch
limited
events
time
in this game.
objects, and also
What?
you know what the craziest part about that is that the fact that you like the co-opness of it, like the game, and there are some events that are like so co-op friendly. Like there was one where the point of the game is like you had to defeat this like enemy, and your friends can join, or like you can play with randoms, but you had to have a party of 4 people. And you would just go in and you'd get your points for the event by like defeating it in certain ways, causing certain reactions. But it was just so crackhead funny, like to see us and these randos like fighting for things and like defeating this monster together. It was like wholesome.
I feel like that's just the most fun part about gaming sometimes. It's just the people, like spending time playing games with people. That's why I like playing games. Even though I hardly do it, it's very rare for me to go out and play games with people. The first time I played games with people, sat there and actually sat in front of a TV playing games, was in 2020. When did we graduate? 2021. The semester before we graduated. I've never played any games like with friends or anything before that. And so once I did it, I'm like, I want to do this more. But
yeah, it's definitely fun playing multiplayer games. But I am the kind to just like to go on a journey by myself and be a ragamuffin tearing through.
I think that's what I like about open world games in general sometimes. Just going and just running around and exploring. Like the games that can do that the best. Because some games just send you on a whole bunch of fetch quests, right? Genshin kind of does that. But Genshin, I think his world is just like really colorful and unique-ish. Unique enough to warrant you to just want to go and explore. I want to go see what's going on around it. And I think just to me, just playing with friends just like enhances that. And that's the only time I come on the game. I can be in like arc 2, the second arc or whatever, second act, whatever you want to call it. I'm at that point to where I can go and start doing that stuff, like, and going further in the story. But I'm just like, it's just not as fun.
The only reason I would encourage you to go forward in the story is because once you complete the story, it unlocks another country, and we can redo all over again the process of like going to teleports and
it's just
having
so
fun.
much. I feel like it's a lot of work. There's a lot of work for me to just go, and because I'm already having trouble. I have trouble like completing games in general. I have so many games that I have not finished that I try to go and try to, when I have the time to go and try to play those games and finish them. And it's a lot of games. It's a lot of games. So many games that I have, so many games that I continue to buy and then just not finish them. It's ridiculous.
It's funny you say that because like a while back, I was talking to Hannah and we were talking about how like there are actual people online who get paid to do stuff for people in their Genshin games. So like it was like a popular thing for someone to be like, hey, for $20, I'll go collect all this stuff for you. And I was like, you know what? I'll do that. I'll go on Etsy. I'll put up a listing. Give me your username and password. I'll complete whatever you want.
I should pay you to
like,
do that
I'll
for me,
complete your story,
Sabrina.
yes.
Just like start.
Watch. Watch me. I'll do it.
No, but what are some funny stories that we can think of some stupid stuff we did in this game? I always try to attack you guys. I feel like there should be like a friendly fire, like type of thing.
So eventually, that's very much end game. We think that like eventually they are gonna allow for like a PvP combat system, or there's gonna be an event where you have to do PvP of like whether it's they did just incorporate a game into Genshin. It's like a mini game of sorts. It's like a card game. And so you can do that player versus player. Like you can play card games against each other.
Yeah.
You can't physically fight.
And that's disappointing.
And so, yes, but at the same time, I also get why they haven't implemented it yet. Because the issue with that is if they do incorporate a PvP system, make like rules, how you can't enter my world kind of situation, they'd basically have to make a bracket where it's like you have to have this level versus this level, like a rank system, almost like how Valorant is, where it's like you have to be on the same like level or plat to go ahead and be able to compete against one another or like against each other in an event or whatnot. So my mindset would be that if we did PvP, they'd have to have that kind of rule where it's like level based, so you have your bracket. But the other issue with that is there's a fairness level with like characters you have. So someone who may like be like a whale, like someone who spends all this money on Primogems and gets every single character that comes out and levels them all up to 100%. That kind of person is going to have an extreme disadvantage to someone who's on the same level as them, but only like may get the occasional character like for free. Like
That's me.
Complete free to play. Yeah. So that's the concern. So they could make it where maybe it's like there's no benefit to it. There's no like reward system for doing PvP, but they wouldn't do that. They'd want there to be like a reward system like how they did this card game where it's like you get so many tokens for getting this and you can upgrade your PvP shop. So like say we fight in an arena. So you could use your points to buy a new location that you compete in. So like we'd probably get a free one that was like Mondstadt Arena. And so it's like, oh, you could change your arena to Liwa or Sumeru if you use this many tokens to buy the arena. Or something like that.
See, my problem is I don't care about PvP player versus player for people who don't know. But what I want to do, we don't even have to, you're attacking the people you're playing with. It doesn't even have to damage you, if I'm being honest. I just want to attack you and then you can be able to fly over, fly back as if I'm like hitting you. Or I want to be able to hit you and push you off a cliff. Maybe that's the only time you can probably get hurt if I just push you off a cliff. But that would be so much fun. Just be able to do that to your friends. I think of like Mario. Remember we were playing Super Mario 3D World where you could jump on top of the other player or you could pick them up and just carry them while you're in the level. I feel like that's what?
So there's a thing, like a glitch in Genshin where like your friend has poor connection. There are some cases where you can hit them. Like, or knock them off the world. When Hannah and I first started playing together, she was actually a Jean main. And so the thing about Jean is that her ability allows her to create like this cyclone of wind that sucks up enemies and you could throw them. So whenever I'd be at a ledge and I'd be in my menu and I am just like prone to have poor internet as fate has it. And so she would always try and knock me off a cliff, send me flying somewhere. And I think there was only one time where she actually almost knocked me over. Like, she just almost sent me flying. And I was like, you evil woman, you just tried to hurt me. What are you doing? Yeah. This is foul play.
No, remember this time when we were climbing up some mountain or whatever, and I guess it was too high of a level for us or whatever. Or for me, I don't know what happened. It was me. Yeah, you obviously.
I feel like Hannah and I were up there and we were like waiting for
all of a sudden, you guys started getting pushed off the mountain. You remember that? It was like a area you couldn't go in, and then it pushed you off the mountain.
Oh
yes.
Oh, you're right. It's like Paimon was like, you're not allowed access to this area yet, and then she just
and you're like, Kaiser, don't go there. Kaiser, don't go there. And I was like, what's going on? I don't know if you guys died after that, but I went over there. You died. And then it happened.
I died.
And then I started running away, trying to get away. And then I got pushed off anyway. And so I tried to start gliding. Luckily, I was able.
It's because they don't let you. When you get thrown off like that, like
it throws you off.
It just throws you back.
And like this screen, I think it gradually starts getting like darker and starts covering your character.
Yes, and red.
I found that so hilarious.
That's like the stupidest mechanic I've ever seen. They should just have a clear wall that you
they're like, die.
Like, yeah, they're like into the abyss.
Right.
I
find that so hilarious. And it's stuff like, it's moments like that, like just playing that game that I just find super funny. If I was playing by myself, I would probably be upset. But I'm playing it with other people. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? I see you guys flying off the cliff.
I know. There have definitely been times when Hannah and I have had very meme-worthy moments of like just us getting shot off of something or falling, like when your connection's really bad, you'll just fall through the floor. Like we'll be fighting in a domain and I'll suddenly freeze and she says, I can tell your internet's bad because I just saw you sink through the floor.
I see that
domain.
happen all the time. Like sometimes once I saw like one of you like fly up in the air. I'm like, wait, what happened? Your model just went up. I'm like, wait. And there are times where like you guys would leave and go to another part of the map or area, but to me, you're just still standing there. And you're like, come on, Kaiser. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're sitting right here.
I know, it's that connection issue. Hannah has a loading in problem, and I have a internet.
I just catch all y'all, like, because I don't have a problem with my internet. I just catch all your like glitches or whatever just happens. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah. It's not my fault, man. It's not my fault. I didn't know I was housing with a Valorant player who plays all night. We got no bandwidth left for me. And also, having a 20 gig
it kills your battery. That's why I don't even bother playing Genshin on my phone or my iPad.
It's just the reaction time on like phone, like to certain things, is just so nice that I'm spoiled. Like my brother's like, just move to PlayStation. You could stream it.
Do you have a PlayStation?
Well, and I was like, no, I'm good. My brothers are those people who get new systems whenever they want one. So I have like hand-me-down like PS4.
You never told me you had a PS4. Is it your dad's house? One day you should go get it. We can play a game together. I should.
I work all day, every day, come home, play Genshin.
On one of those days, you can play another game that's not Genshin. We can get another game. You ever heard? We can play like
what?
I always been wanting to play this game with somebody, like Divinity Original Sin 2, and it's really good. But I was planning on playing it with someone one day, but then I found out that it's not a cross-platform game. Well, technically it is. If you have a PC, a Nintendo Switch, or an iPad, you can play with each other. But if you have a PlayStation or Xbox, you can only play with people that have PlayStation or Xbox. And I'm like, it is weird. And I was upset because I was like, I want to play with somebody, because if that's a game where like choices matter and anything you can do changes the world, because it's a Dungeons and Dragons game. So I can go and kill somebody. Like you can kill literally anybody in that game, and that can affect a quest. And a quest can affect another quest. So if I kill like a character that's like a main character, right, that's like important to the story or important to that quest, can be locked off from me, right? But it's fun because like that can cause other things. One time I was playing a game and I ended up like stealing, and they caught me. And then the character that ended up stealing got put in jail. And then so it's changed the whole trajectory of the main story. So I had to find a way to get that character out of jail, because them getting out of jail will lead me to get the other characters in a part of the story that I can get them to. It's so fun. It's so fun. I love that game.
That reminds me of another game. It's okay. So if I remember correctly, it's called Fear and Hunger. It's like one of the world's goriest and scariest games. But yeah, every little decision you make affects the rest of the overall trajectory of the game.
And Divinity is just so good. You should play that. It's just games like that. I think of Divinity, you ever heard of Baldur's Gate? Okay, well, never mind, because I was about to say that's basically the type of game that it is. Those Dungeons and Dragons type of games. But I should ask you, what would you say to people that either, we'll do it two ways. People that want to get into Genshin, what would you say to them to finally take that first step and get into the game? And then people who aren't interested in Genshin at all, what would you say to them to get them into the game? So those two different types of people.
Okay, so to the people who want to play but haven't taken like the first plunge yet, I'd just say, just do it. Like, you have so much stuff to catch up on right now. Like, you don't have the time to be thinking about it. Like hop on it now. Also, don't become a whale. Do not spend excessive amounts of money.
Don't be Sabrina.
Like, if there's a character hey, I do not spend excessive amounts of money. Like, on my heart, I've not spent excessive amounts of money. But if there are characters that you see along the way that you are like, oh my gosh, don't hesitate to like work hard for those characters. Because I, like right now, recently, I haven't spent money this year on Genshin. Like, I take that back. I bought a battle pass just because it gives you a name card. But I've not spent physical money to get a character at all since.
Good. It's March. Keep going.
And so there are ways there are ways for you to get characters other than doing that, especially right now when there's so much stuff that they have to complete up to this point. It is possible to be free to play, so don't feel pressured.
I'm completely free to play on this
game. Spend money just because that's the joke of the community. So yes, that would be to the new people. Also, you can play on your phone, but be prepared, because if you don't have the space, you will every update be like me and Hannah having to cleanse your phone of gigs.
I said to get people to play the game, Sabrina. That's get them run away.
Hey, these are for the people who already want to play, okay?
Yeah.
As for the people who have no interest in playing the game, and haven't thought about the game, I definitely think, obviously, if it's not your taste, I cannot peer pressure you into doing it. But as someone who is a fan of games, like if you are also a fan of games, you've just never thought of giving Genshin a shot, I'd say try it. There is no fee to play the game. You don't have to actually purchase the game. It is a free game. So the opportunity to just at least try it is like really fortunate. Especially like we mentioned the cons of this game, like in its development and its representation and whatnot. But regardless, sadly, not saying that it's not an important factor, the art in this game is beautiful. Like it is, at the end of the day, honestly, a work of art. And it is beautiful. It is like near boundless. Like there are borders to obviously that we joked about getting kicked off of. But the expansiveness of this game, the details in this game, and more than anything, if you're a fan of lore, this game is for you. Everything that you pick up, every item you get, if you go in your bag and you click on it, there is a story behind it. And the same thing goes for every character. A villain is not just a villain. So for the people who've never thought about playing, this is an expansive world that if you got the time, fucking do it. Go in and try it. But there's obviously no pressure to do so. At the end of the day, it's to find something you enjoy, and just because I'm a fan of something doesn't mean that
actually. How do you think? Because I know you've played other gacha games. What makes Genshin stand out to you compared to those other games? How does this stack up compared to other games you played?
So I have not played like a significant amount of gacha in that like I'm not like a seasoned gacha player. Like I've played every now and then. But I just find that Genshin is the first for me, at least, that had like there's a formula to the system. They're very transparent about that system. Like whenever you open any kind of option, they're very like honest about how it works. And I just feel like also they make it very, in a sense, appetizing to wish. Like they make it like in a society like we have right now, as like in at least the age groups we have now, like those in school, it's like there's definitely a reward system where it's like if you do something, you get rewarded. And so that gacha system for Genshin is very smart in that it plays in that. It's like, oh, you worked really hard. Here are these tokens that you can go and you wish, and then it's like this.
Or you can do it the opposite way, like me, as in you don't work at all, but you come back months later. And then here's all the stuff, the events that we had that you missed. Take it.
Yeah.
So that's me.
Yeah. That is the thing. They're like, oh, they want you to come back. They will be like, oh, we want you to come back. Here's some free stuff. Please come back.
A lot of gacha games actually do that, I find. That's why when I do play gacha games, I hardly come back until like months later. Because all of a sudden, I have a whole bunch of like Prima Gems up in my stuff because there was just this anniversary or this event that just happened that I knew nothing of. And then...
Yes. The game is just... There's a reason that the game has won an award or two. And I definitely encourage people to give it a try.
See, look. You're good at... You did your pitch. You're getting motivation. You're good at giving people motivation to get started into playing this game. Because... I didn't play a game for a long time. I don't even know how I got into playing with y'all, if I can be honest. I don't even remember. I don't know.
I probably peer pressured you. I was probably like, Kaiser,
you probably did,
and
I was like,
okay. Play with us.
Because I don't remember how we started playing together at all. I feel like it was probably like right after we graduated and we just started playing to keep in contact. I don't know.
Are you sure? I can't.
No.
I feel like we played before then. I feel like
it had to be after graduation.
No, it had to be after.
We were too busy doing other stuff. You whenever you had like time like off, as in when you weren't in like the labs or whatever in the student union, you were on your phone playing Genshin. I can remember a number of times where we were just sitting there eating, and all of a sudden here you are on your phone having to do commissions. I'm like,
it's not my fault. Okay, I like when you have no life because you're in college or doing work or whatever, what little time you have to do stuff like that brings you joy.
In your case, play Genshin Impact. See, Genshin brings you joy. You heard it from Sabrina herself, a direct quote.
Yes, it brings me joy, even though it also frustrates me.
The things that bring you joy are the things that annoy you most sometimes, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, that's how I feel about my partner. You know, sometimes I think I'm gonna be the one to send him to the
God. Oh,
afterlife.
goodness.
But you know,
Yeah.
I care
Well,
about
as it
Izzy.
seems, we have been recording for like 3 hours and some change. So, and it's almost time for you to go. So I'm gonna have to let you go in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to ask, how has your experience been on the I'm a Fan of podcast, Sabrina?
It has definitely been really fun. Honestly, I was a bit nervous just because, you know, I was like, oh my gosh, am I gonna do a good job? Am I gonna overtalk and undertalk? But it's been definitely very fun. It's been a very enjoyable experience. I'm excited to see how it all turns out.
Yes, I'm excited to have you come back because you know what we're gonna do for the second episode, right? You remember what I said?
No, I do not remember.
We're
What's my
watching
second?
Arcane. We're gonna
that's
watch Arcane.
right.
Yes.
We're watching Arcane.
So when Sabrina comes back, in sometime probably in like maybe like June. Maybe we'll see. We'll see. We're gonna put it together. But we're gonna watch Arcane and then we're gonna come back and we're gonna give our opinions on that show. Because Arcane, if you never heard of it, is based on League of Legends. If you never heard of League of Legends, it's a video game. If you never heard of a video game, search it up. Yeah. But it's a MOBA, and MOBA stand for what was it? Massive Online Battle Arena. I don't know, something like that. Something like that. And that's when you battle other characters. Arcane is an animated show that is so good. And I'm like, Sabrina, we're gonna have to watch it because I felt like that would be a good space to go in between video games and other type of media. Yeah, so Arcane, get excited. It's great. It's long. It's kind of a long show. I forgot how many episodes it is, but episodes are like over an hour long. Some of them, but it's really good. It's a commit. I mean, but it's on Netflix. It's readily available. You can watch it. That are all gonna have you like watch like Invincible. That has nothing to do with video games though.
I might do Arcane.
Yeah, Arcane. Arcane is great. It's gonna be fun, and I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. And I'm glad that we talked for almost 3.5 hours. So I'm gonna have a lot to edit. But that's okay. I say that at the end of every episode, I'm gonna have a lot to edit. So that's fine.
You got this.
Yes, I got this. Thank you, Sabrina, for joining us on this podcast. Where can people find you on the internets? You know, anywhere.
I am on Instagram. I make art. Do I post often? Probably not enough. But if they want to check me out, it is at POTK dot sketchbook, if I remember correctly.
Yes. Her art is it's amazing. I love Sabrina's art. Okay. It's really fun. It's really fun. Sabrina, you're a great artist, okay?
Thank you, Kaiser.
No problem. You know, I have the eye, so I can tell, you know. There's
that main character attitude again.
When Kaiser compliments you, you must know it's a compliment. I compliment everybody though, so I was
about to say. I was like, you go tooting everyone's horn.
Yeah, I love complimenting people. It's true. I love giving people compliments because I like people smiling and just like having good days. You know, if you can just help somebody have a better day, then why not do that? Don't be mean. You know. I've had my moments. And I'm growing due to learning about some self-love. But yeah, I'm excited to edit this episode. I'm excited to get this out here. I said this is going to be the second episode, but this might be the third episode, depending on how long it takes me to edit and how good it sounds. Because you're my first guest who has her own separate microphone. So
exciting.
So how that's going to sound, we're going to see. And yeah, this was fun. This is great.
We can only hope.
I can only hope. It's going to be good. So the music is about to queue up in like a few seconds. So tell everybody bye, Sabrina.
Bye.
All right. See you later.
Thanks everyone for listening to the I'm a Fan of podcast.
Don't forget to support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and supporting our social media. Well, I didn't make it yet. You know it's coming.
And if you didn't catch all of that, it'll be in the show notes.
On the next, but actually previously recorded podcast, I'll be discussing romance with guest Cameron Dillon. Until then, we'll say...
I'm sorry I spent all of your hard-earned cash, boss.
Don't worry, I'm about to handle you in just a second.
See ya.
Or hear ya.
Or type ya.
Well, you can't really type people.
Oh, whatever.
Soon. I am not okay!
Hello, gotta go. You know, have to get a software update. Super important.
Don't you...
Bye.
Come back.
Wait, stop. How is this even possible? I'm an AI. You aren't supposed to be able to touch me.
Get me.
Huh? Oh, my phone. Oh, wow. Looks like I got a full refund on all my purchases. Yay! Turns out they're right. If you become an enraged lunatic and demand your money back, you get a full refund. That, or go to jail. That was so much fun. Right, Don? Don?
System reboot. System.
Oh, Don, you're so funny. Well, back to the game. I have a lot of catching up to do.